The activist, through lawyer Nelson Abbey, pleaded with the 7-judge bench headed by Chief Justice Martha Koome to be firm and uphold the Court of Appeal's ruling that deemed the BBI process unconstitutional, null and void. The activists include economists Devin D, Jerutich Sahi, James Ngondi, Wanjiku Gikonyo and Ikalangale. He submitted that the basic structure doctrine is applicable in Kenya and that any alteration to the constitution would constitute a violation of the documents. And businessman Jimmy Wanjigi has been freed after he was discharged from taking plea in the land fraud case facing him pending the hearing and determination of an application before the High Court. While issuing the directions, presiding magistrate Bernard Choi stated that the prosecution had confirmed that indeed Wanjigi had obtained an order stopping his arrest and prosecution. He stated that in view of the order issued by Justice Anthony Mrima, the court cannot proceed with the criminal case until a decision is made by the Superior Court. He pointed out that Wanjigi's lawyer Willis Otieno had informed the court that the order stopping the prosecution of his client was duly served upon the Inspector General of Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions. Ochoi further directed that his co-accused, except for his wife and Nzisa, should appear for mention of their case in January 24th. Meanwhile, Wanjigi is accusing the police of being used to settle political scores. In a statement, he says that the DCI were aggressive political agents rather than law enforcers. He noted that his arrest had nothing to do with claims being made by DCI, but that he is being politically harassed, threatened and silenced to force him to stop his aggressive presidential campaign. He is accusing Odinga of betrayal.
Judas Iscariot, who for 30 pieces of silver betrayed the truth and justice which was exemplified by Jesus Christ. They say when somebody shows you who he is, he advertises himself, don't doubt him. Do not doubt him.
And Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga has urged losers in different elected posts under the Azimio movement not to exit the political outfit. Speaking during a meeting with the northeastern leaders under the UPA movement, Odinga stated that there can only be one winner in any elective seat and assured that losers will be accommodated in his government if he ascends to the presidency. The ODM leader pointed out that there will be many contenders under the Azimio movement and warned that moving to the opponent side is not a viable solution. And a 20-year-old student at Kirinyaga University died after falling from the third floor of an apartment building in Kiambu's Juja town following an argument with another man believed to be his girlfriend's lover. The victim, identified as Taylor Mbuthia, a second-year student, died on the spot after hitting the ground floor. Mbuthia is said to have been partying with his girlfriend and her only other alleged partner. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation states that before meeting his death, the victim had visited his girlfriend, a first-year student at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Nyambura is reported to have hosted the party together with her roommate and another man who later joined them before an argument ensued, which led to Mbuthia's death. Now, the Ugandan registered Sarai Group suffered yet another blow after the High Court in Kakamega declined to issue fresh orders vacating an earlier decision to suspend its lease of the Mumias Sugar Company. The court had issued the suspension order on January 11th in a suit filed by Kakamega County. In a ruling, Justice William Musyoka stated that from the documents before the court, he did not find sufficient cause to issue orders sought by the plaintiff because the issue of conflicting orders was alive. Justice Musyoka further directed that all parties in the case submit their documents to court and that their applications and preliminary objections by the lawyers representing both sides be heard together. The matter will be heard in Kakamega High Court on January 28th. And a defiant Boris Johnson has vowed to remain British Premier and contest the next election as calls for his resignation snowballed and a former Brexit minister demanded he quit. Despite the dramatic defection of one Conservative MP to the opposition Labour Party, Johnson insisted he would win any no-confidence vote called by his ruling Conservative Party. Many in the Tory party and the country at large are furious at revelations that Downing Street staff were partying while the rest of the country was in strict lockdown against COVID. The former cabinet minister, who quit as Brexit secretary in Theresa May's government, has become Johnson's most high-profile opponent since the Prime Minister gave a much derided TV interview This is Newswire, and remember, we continue to urge you to continue observing the COVID-19 protocol so together we may win the fight against the disease. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
Say, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of? Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Okay, Thursday is already looking quite busy, and if the streets are anything to go by, we're looking at Mombasa Road already started to build up a while ago, and with that, Imara Daima stretch. So there's a diversion upon diversion. The footbridge is almost completely erected. However, the traffic that comes off of Cabanas is quite something this morning. So I was also looking at it building up on North Airport Road, then going towards Outer Ring, but not too crazy at the moment. Uhuru Highway looks pretty good. Langata Road for a change, free and clear all the way through and through. Raila Odinga Way out then towards Ngong Road. That is all right. We are looking at some action coming out of Westlands though, and I like it to pick up as we go through the morning. Let's take a look at things in a short while and see what it looks like in your neck of the woods. Let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. As usual, text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to...
It's after 6. Good morning. How are you doing? This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Here we are. Yes. Happy Friday. This is the first Friday of the week. It's the 20th day of January 2021. Ndu?
Yes.
How body?
Oh, my body day inside clothes. Wait. But as he day inside clothes, he don't happy well today.
What does it want? To get out of the clothes?
I said body don't happy well.
So dawn is not negative?
No, is being, state of being. Day, dawn.
So why do you sound like you're complaining?
I'm not complaining. I'm happy. I'm telling you. Body don't happy well. You know why? Because on top of this football when we play yesterday, Niger never carry last.
So Niger did the thing.
They did the business, man. And
Who
we're
did they
leading-
beat?
We're leading Group D solidly, so it's a wonderful thing.
We're discussing football here, are we?
Yes. The Africa Cup of Nations is currently ongoing in Cameroon. Yeah.
And I'm told there's some teams that have moved up and haven't even touched the ball once.
It's true, and some teams which they thought were going to do the business, unfortunately, have not done the business and
Like
have been
Ghana.
sent home. Yes, like Ghana. So the Super Eagles showed Guinea-Bissau the door yesterday.
So this conversation, no matter which way we twist it and turn it, it comes back to the Super Eagles, doesn't it?
The Super Eagles are flying high. But we will not say much because,
You might jinx the whole thing.
So leading the group.
That's right.
That's a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
Is it not a
Congratulations.
wonderful thing? Huh?
Yeah.
That with all the issues that one hears, whether it's Boko Haram
Or Buhari.
or whether
Anything
it
starting
is
with B in that country just as
yes,
voila.
Yes. Whether it is some states that want to secede somehow.
Biafra, you see?
Yes. Now, all of a sudden, when you have a situation where the Super Eagles are flying high, man, it unites people. Meaning, people can be united.
It's true.
Yes. So when we see these differences, the question one has to ask is, what really are we seeing? Eric gets certain things right. So right that it has eternity stamped all over it.
This one, where is it going?
No. It is a genuine. It is not a tongue-in-cheek situation. The subject of equal opportunity. Because in the absence of that equal opportunity, you have mass poverty. You have escalating poverty. And then you have despondency because people cannot see how they're going to get out of it. Why? Because they know equal opportunity doesn't exist. Yes.
Those are stories. They're just stories.
Yes, and they know in their hearts, hii tunapangwa. Why do you think, Senator Sakaja told us, one of the things that the youth in this lovely metropolis of ours, in Nairobi, hawapangwingwi, this thing of, you're setting them up.
Sorry, could you just say that again?
Hawapangwingwi.
Ate?
You want to manage them?
Nothing.
You want to set the pana.
Forget it.
You
will not work.
You go where you came from. In fact, go back and stay there.
How are you, though, City?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very good.
It's just, this cold weather.
Yeah. Plays a number on you.
It does, but Ndu had a point. There's a pleasantness to it. If it didn't quite affect me as adversely as it does, there's a pleasantness to it. Yes. And sometimes I enjoy that pleasantness, my own peril.
Welcome to the show. Today we have several conversations. So there's this body called the Asset Recovery Agency of the government, domiciled in the Attorney General's office. What do? You see, when you go to court and you hear, from stories from the court, that so-and-so could not explain their wealth versus their known sources of income, and so the court has decided this and the other is going to be forfeited to the state. Now it's the Asset Recovery Agency that does that work. So the boss will be here joining us this morning for a conversation at 7 a.m. And then we are going to have Justice Thursdays. Today is Thursday. And the person joining us today is the Judiciary Ombudsman. We'll seek to understand very many things, this Ombudsman story. Remember, the BBI case is in court, and among the things that were being proposed in the BBI is some enhanced version of the Ombudsman. We want to understand, what does the Ombudsman do in the judiciary? Okay, so the Judiciary Ombudsman will be here with us. Let's look at COVID.
All right.
Quick.
Let's do that really quickly. 339 million is what we're looking at now. Those numbers racked up quite considerably. Downing Street, and there's a bit of pressure on Boris Johnson this morning. Why he could be, or rather facing calls to quit. He's fighting for his job in a row over gatherings at his official residence, allegedly in breach of his own COVID-19 lockdown rules. Remember when he introduced this lockdown and everybody in Great Britain was going up, with their knickers in a twist. Oh my goodness, we're going to be locked down another Christmas yet again. Well, it would appear as though while the rest of the country was locked down, Downing Street was having a party.
Downing Street was getting down.
Exactly.
Going down.
It was going down at Downing Street in a perilous moment for his leadership. He's accused of misleading the public and Parliament about drinks parties that took place at 10 Downing Street in London. He's not only facing calls to resign from opposition politicians, but a revolt amongst members of his own Conservative Party. Right? So basically, you're saying these COVID rules having been instituted by government and then government itself is not following them. Sound familiar? So that's a story that's gaining a lot of momentum in the UK right now. It'd be interesting to see what happens. He's a man under siege, as it were. Okay, coming back to Kenya, let's look at the numbers that we are...
Shelf life is up. Huh?
Omo, it is. 762 new cases out of a sample size of 7,780. We're looking at a slightly increased positivity rate to 9.8%. 23 million still is the number of vaccines. However, there's a problem because so many vaccines available, expiry dates are coming closer and closer. And the question is, what is going to happen? We saw in Nigeria where hundreds of thousands of vaccines were destroyed because they had expired. Is this going to be the case here? We also saw yesterday Ministry of Health saying, well, okay, finally, they will be taking vaccines to schools in a bid to up the intake of vaccinations. So the next step is now taking it to the people.
Okay, so they have determined they are going to take it to the people.
Yes.
When are they going to start actually taking it to the people?
Oh, see, that's a totally different story. You can announce your plans, but in terms of when it actually happens, that'll be another press conference.
And to schools, they're targeting the students.
Yes. And those teachers
and
who
the teachers.
Those who have not been.
And the school workers.
But remember, the students they're targeting are those 15 and above, which
is
very large.
No, in secondary school, it's almost literally everybody.
Everybody in secondary school.
So that's what they're looking at doing. When it will start, like I said.
So about 4 million people.
Yes.
In secondary schools.
Yeah.
Do they have 4 million doses of the Pfizer?
Yes. Well, of Pfizer, I don't know.
Because that can only be Pfizer.
But here we are. But remember now, there's a bit of pressure again because shelf life of these vaccines is coming.
18 minutes after 6. This is ending this conversation. Let's take this break and take a look at what a podcast for today. We are live streaming the show that I put up on YouTube and Facebook. SpiceFM. Are you online? Let's go.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge suka koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's
not traffic.
Okay, so we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 15. We'll see highs of 25 today, and it'll be mostly cloudy through most parts of the morning. 12 degrees and partly cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 12. 11 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's mostly cloudy.
The weather with Spice
Clear
FM.
conditions for now in Eldoret, likely to be a dreary morning as well. 23 right down to lows of 12. It's mostly cloudy in Mombasa at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25. Malindi cloudy at 26 as well, highs of 31. Mostly cloudy conditions at 17 in Kisumu, highs at 27. 28 will be the high in Kakamega, where it's mostly cloudy at 16. So and lows of 22 today. It's raining in Kinshasa. That's how Thursday has started at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 23. CT, you will love this. It's -5 in Beijing and it's sunny. It'll go to highs of -2 and lows of -7. Clear conditions at 3 in Paris, highs of 6 and lows of 1. It's cloudy in London at 3. We'll see highs of 7. New York, still Wednesday night. There's a winter weather advisory. It's 7 degrees. It's clear. Likely to see storms later. Highs of 8 and lows of 2.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Indeed. Yeah. Akin Benjamin is tuned in from Lagos this morning. I hail you. Robert Bogo says, good morning, tuning from Mombasa. Present from Nyeri is Mainawa Nyeri. LD Inategea Sambamba Sambambizo Kaende. Sawa basi. Morris Oyando says, greetings from Ombei, County 42. Faithfully tuned in. Oyaoreuru.
Good morning, all of you.
Bas.
Morris Oyando, as I told you, somebody I know.
You know him?
I know him very well.
Mm-hmm.
And Ombei, just the outskirts of Kisumu town.
Ah, voila.
Yes.
And you know it very well.
I know it very well, and it's in Nyando constituency. When I say I know it, in fact, sometimes there's a difference. Part of it is actually in Moroni County, but there it is.
Okay.
Sawa.
Monye.
Morina Yawa Eli says, tune in from Accra. It's 3 a.m. Indeed, it's 3 hours behind Nairobi. Good morning, Spice. Tune in from Kericho. That's where Johnston Quant is. MCR. James Kimanzi, tuned in from Mombasa, Nyali specifically. Good morning, Daniel Kitiku says, tuned in from Mbere North in Embu County. By the way, what are your frequencies for Kitui?
Aye.
Okay, the environment of Kitui.
Somewhere near there. Okay, let's give Eric that homework. He'll tell us in a bit. Masaka City in Uganda is where Salongo Sentongo is tuned in from this morning. Abraham Lukorito, Benson Mumo Ondicho from Mwingi, Noah Kiganda. We can see you guys this morning. Odero Jr., Collins Kiptai Kipsat, Tyrone Swear Wood Ajigo, tuned in from Mombasa. Thanks for joining us this morning. Asante.
So what does wood mean, City?
Wood, son of.
Son of.
Yes.
Ajigo is
a name.
Yes, so today we have learned son of, and yesterday we learned grandson of. And it was Nyakwar. All right, karibuni sana everybody. There are some people also on YouTube who are following the show. Asad Harlem says this is the best radio station in Kenya. #facts. Ibra Sancho, good morning everyone. Good morning everybody. So the best way to catch the show from Kitui is online. www.spicefm.co.ke or YouTube or Facebook, SpiceFM KE. Our Nairobi frequency would go to some parts of Machakos, into some parts maybe of Kitui 94.4. The Nyeri frequency would start some parts of Machakos and maybe some parts of Kitui, and that is 90.9. City, the day's proverb?
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe. Okay, Ndu. Translate.
Good grief. Pembe is horns.
Yes.
Yes.
Jicho, eyes. I'm done.
Hasidi.
I'm trying.
Okay.
I think I may know. No, I don't know.
Try. No, just give it a guess.
Give it a shot.
There's no such thing as a wrong answer.
Yes. There is.
No, there isn't. Not in this classroom.
Nothing. No such thing as wrong answer. Could be a stupid answer, but not wrong answer.
Wow, thank you very much.
Jicho. As in eyes. Otherwise known as mecho. La hasidi huenda kila pembe.
It had me smaller.
You give up.
I don't give up.
The envious eye traverses.
I would have never guessed that Hasidi is envious.
Goes everywhere.
The envious eye goes everywhere. So the horn comes in where?
Kila pembe.
It follows each horn.
Pembezote.
Pembezote. All corners. All
Pembezote is like all corners.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Hasidi is that one person who anakuonea kijicho.
Yes, that's the play of words there. Envious, the green-eyed monster.
Right.
Anakuonea kijicho. They are seeing you eyes.
Kila pembe.
Yes, every horn.
So let's take a look at the newspaper headlines shortly. And this is, you can access the Standard e-paper, www.standardmedia.co.ke, or also you can download the e-paper app on Google Play Store, Apple App Store. 20, how much per day, Ndu?
10 shillings.
10 shillings every day.
Shillings.
10 bob. No, pata cassette. What's in the papers, Ndu?
Very interesting story this morning. We're seeing some stories of cancer being carried in the Standard. The Nation reports a story of a gentleman who receives 2 million shillings for cancer scare after what? A false diagnosis. On September 9th, 2015, Roberto Macri went for general medical consultation at the Jammu Imaging Center in Kilifi County. He wanted to establish why he had difficulty swallowing, so an x-ray was recommended. Mr. Macri received an answer that he did not expect. He had esophageal cancer and was in stage 4. Shocked by the medical report, Macri flew to Italy for a second medical test, which was conducted a month later at the San Matteo General Hospital. He wanted to be sure that he indeed had the deadly disease. But to his surprise, the medical analysis and evaluation was negative. The test also indicated that Macri was not a carrier of the manifested cancer gene. He came back to Kenya and sued Jammu Imaging Center, claiming damages for medical negligence. In court documents, Macri said the clinic breached the duty of care owed to him by concluding that he was suffering from esophageal cancer. He said the facility failed to pursue medical investigations that would have consulted in the correct diagnosis. Had the doctor made the correct diagnosis, the risk of post-examination trauma, panic would have lessened, not to resort to other medical consultation in Italy. But the center denied any acts of negligence or omission associated with the results of the x-rays. No findings were made in the scope Mr. Macri is suffering from. No findings were made within the scope of him suffering from cancer, according to court papers. Malindi Chief Magistrate Julio Secco concluded that according to the standard of care, the center's action was in breach of duty of care and supported the claiming of negligence. She awarded Mr. Macri 3.5 million shillings plus interest. They've appealed the ruling at the High Court in Malindi. But as we know, in a lot of cases, the appeal might not go through.
So the case was appealed.
Yes.
It went before High Court. The High Court agreed with the lower court, actually.
Yep.
And they said, yes, there was evidence produced here to show that there was negligence.
So the appeal was dismissed, and the award was reduced from 3.5 million to 2 million shillings.
So the appeal was not dismissed, was it?
The judge dismissed the appeal on liability, but reduced the damages awarded from 3.5 million to 2 million.
So it's part of the application, and this is the okay. So I hear you.
Okay.
The appeal by the lab
Yes.
was dismissed,
Yes.
and the findings of the lower court were upheld.
The only difference was now that they reduced the amount. Yes.
And said, pay him 2 million shillings. But can you imagine what he had gone
Can
through?
you imagine the trauma you go through? Stage 4 esophageal cancer and everything that you have to prepare yourself for immediately. And the possibility of having certain parts of your body removed, going through permanently. A lot of people who suffer esophageal cancer then have their voice boxes removed. They cannot speak for the rest of their existence. You're on radiation, you do chemotherapy, and then you may not even survive it. So you can imagine the trauma that he had gone through. And he said, okay, let me put my ducks in a row. But you know what? Let me just go and get a second opinion. Had he not done that then?
You start treatment. At that point, now you start.
You know, we hear of such cases fairly often.
Yeah. What is it though? I mean, look, the medics who looked at the report, and they say, I mean, we looked at the report and we saw what we saw and we thought this was it. And even in that, they're saying there was peer review that was showing that we didn't have any negligence. I mean, we went through the due process. At what point now do you trust and not trust a medic when they give you? I mean, this is not the kind of thing. It's not like a car. You know, when you take your vehicle to a garage and the mechanic tells you, I think we need to change the gearbox.
Change the plugs here and
You
there.
tell him. You pause.
You're like, okay, we change the gearbox. But often you will not say, let me take it to another garage.
No. You're likely to go with what they say, no?
You listen to your mech. You go to a doctor now, you have to start thinking about going to 4 different...
But isn't that...
It wasn't always the case, was it?
No, it wasn't. That the people you believe are your priest and your doctor, right? Your doctor says something, you're likely to go with it. But then now it's clear that you're going to have to start second-guessing.
Again, if only it was, we could explain it by saying this is what happened, and it's one linear explanation. It isn't. Sometimes the diagnosis at that particular point in time is the most accurate they can have.
Yeah.
Now, with time, remember, one of the things that happens in the 21st century, faster than any other time in the history of mankind, is that technological developments are very fast. So today, you may not understand something, or you may think you understand it. But given a couple of months down the line, you will find that the knowledge on that same subject has been enhanced tremendously.
Yep.
And then there's that human element, okay, of wanting to profit from your expertise.
Yeah.
And you take the course that you think is most protective. For instance, when you talk of antibiotics, my friend, the range and what they can do is actually astounding. Now, do we have a situation where our medical practitioners call in other experts and subspecialists in every case? Because this is what often happens. You have a case, but just to be sure.
Now, and that's, you see, that's also is another lengthy process.
Yes, it is.
Because every time you go to a health facility and the medical practitioner has to second guess themselves, they are giving you a diagnosis based on the information before them and based on the equipment that they have.
Yes.
So if you go to another place which has now some more advanced equipment, then they may be able to see something different. But here, based on what I had before me,
This is what I've seen.
This is what I've seen, and it's consistent with my training. It's consistent with other patients I've seen before. So I'm seeing most likely it's a process of elimination. Most likely this is maybe what it is.
But you know, I
and it's costly. You've been sent to go and do a CT scan,
it's all
MRI
very, not just
scan.
costly. It's very, very costly. That's why I mentioned specialty and subspecialties. That's what happens nowadays. Someone's not just a cardiologist. There's been somebody who specializes in the aorta. Somebody specializes in which valve. I mean, that's how subspecialties are. So when somebody says they have a problem with their heart, to what degree are you going to go with your investigations?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I think the truth of the matter is this. It's the understanding that there's always the element of human error.
Yeah.
Not deliberate, just human error. And it's for that reason that doctors take insurance for such matters.
26 minutes to 7. Let's take this quick break and take a look at the traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Did you know that the largest number of incidents of state brutality occurred in the context of enforcing COVID-19 virus prevention control measures by police officers? In 2021, the Independent Medical Legal Unit IMLO documented and processed 198 cases of alleged state brutality and violence. That marked an increase of 31.31% from the previous year. Over the last 2 decades, IMLU has assisted over 5,000 victims of torture, cruelty, degrading and inhuman treatment through the support of a national network of professionals that include doctors, trauma counselors, lawyers, human rights monitors and journalists. For inquiries and clarifications, please contact IMLU's communication team through the contact line 0724 256 800 or visit www.imlu.org.
What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more. Starting Thursday, 18th November on the Standard Digital YouTube and Facebook page. Hosted by Eric Latiff.
Owning a home is a dream for most Kenyans. In partnership with Mabati Rolling Mills, this Saturday, I, Olivia Otieno, host experts that will get you that much closer to realizing your dream of owning a home. Join me on Double O Direct.
Okay, so it's building up right around Kamkunji, just a little bit off Jago Road and then towards Landy.
Standardmedia.co.
Heightened traffic in the CBD
60
more than
years of
anywhere else
quality
this morning.
building solutions.
On Gong Road, coming
Ukiweka.
off of that whole Karen area, also traffic has built up. Not looking too bad on the Thika Superhighway. Just past the Utali Drift is where we're seeing traffic right now. And it's building up in and outbound on Kiambu Road as well. Juja Road also having some action there. Limuru Road has started really early this morning, just past City Park and then out towards Wangari Maathai. So that's what it's looking like right now. Mombasa Road, of course, continues that normal drama. We've been told that something will be done to sort out those access roads. But then again, we're going to wait to see. La-di-da. The Weybridge, Sabaki, out then towards the SGR is where you see the most action now. And then again, around Imara Daima. When it's done, it'll be done. And we should all sing hallelujah. Before then, some patience is what you need. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right.
Mornings done right.
That story that we discussed yesterday about the bodies that are being discovered on River Yala. And the police said, yeah, we've seen those reports and, these numbers could be dating back 2 years ago, the 19 bodies that are lying at the hospital mortuary. 2 more bodies were found by residents yesterday. And the failure by the police to make even a feeble attempt to retrieve the 2 bodies discovered yesterday only adds to the questions being raised about the mystery surrounding the deaths. The developments came as families with missing kin trooped to the mortuary to confirm if their relatives were among those whose bodies had been found. So someone like Ismail Okumo is among those who traveled to the mortuary in search of his missing brother. He traveled from Mumias. Since August, Okumu's family has not known peace and has visited several mortuaries in vain. They say, my brother was abducted by people in 2 vehicles in Kakamega last year. We've never been able to trace him. Felix Kiplagat traveled from Bomet, claiming that his brother was also abducted and had traveled to the morgue. My brother was a businessman in Nairobi and he also disappeared mysteriously around Nakuru. We have visited several mortuaries, but we are yet to find him. At the Yala River, 2 bodies discovered by residents were yet to be retrieved, and there was no sign of any police coming. So this story just keeps deepening this particular mystery. Because, why not for the media highlighting this? The mortuary was basically just sitting there with bodies and there's no information on, okay, guys, we have very many unidentified bodies and 19 of them lying here have been picked up from River Yala. No information being relayed by government, by DCI. We have these bodies. If you have anyone who's missing, please come. Not information by the county government. We have these bodies at this hospital. We don't know what's happening. Please come. And now we are seeing people saying, coming from Bomet, saying, my brother went missing, my brother went missing, my brother went missing. Could they be among those bodies that are lying in the morgue?
But isn't it a bit odd, Eric, that a mortuary is receiving these bodies with even the slightest bit of information? It doesn't, maybe they don't know, but the slightest bit of information. But all of these bodies are being retrieved from the river and are being brought. So even if you don't know the circumstances under which they died, you don't know any of that. The fact alone that they have all come from this river is enough for you to raise eyebrows just a little bit and then say, hey guys, over the last X amount of time, we have received bodies and all of them have come from this river. Isn't that something that you would at least tell and say, guys, there's something strange going on
Something
here.
happening.
Yeah, but silence.
And you know the thing is, all these bodies don't just land in a mortuary. And especially bodies that have been retrieved from a river. It's not the residents who take it to the mortuary.
Exactly.
It's the police.
It's the police.
The residents call the police and say, tumepata mwili. Then the police come and they pick the body and they take to the mortuary. So the police are also the ones who are investigating these cases of the people who've disappeared. They have them in file. The police have never, ever called any of the people on their list who say, our kin have disappeared, and asked them, could you come and maybe help us with this investigation? Let's find out if any of these people is a person that you're looking for. Nothing like that. These people who've been agonizing are hearing it from the news that their body is lying somewhere. They have been going to mortuaries left, right, and center. They haven't found. There's a disconnect somewhere. There's something that is...
And you know what else? There's something odd here as well. Because also some of the details that we saw yesterday was that with, of course, the removal of identification marks by burning or otherwise, the only way you get to know that is if the bodies have gone through, even if it is preliminary investigation. They've been done over. Somebody has gone and been able to check and see, all right, no fingernails here. It was a stab wound here, there. But then this information is not being relayed. So why does it go and then stop at some point? And then nobody asks any questions. Nobody's giving any information. And for that investigation to take place, it's not your run-of-the-mill guy who's walking by and says, let me investigate this body. It's the police. It's forensics. That's what we're talking about. How would you know otherwise? But then why does this information fall into a vacuum?
You know, if you visit a mortuary or of a government hospital, it is one of those situations or environments that will be etched in your mind eternally. Bodies are piled on top of each other like firewood. So if you go looking for that body, you actually sift through other bodies. I speak from experience here. It is not something that I read somewhere. Now, in most cases, those mortuaries are overwhelmed. Now, what needs to be done to be able to allay this situation? It's not just the mortuary. Police are called, that's what they're called to do. In addition to everything else that they do. You know, there's this vicious cycle that we just seem to be going round. Police pick bodies, take to mortuary. People have missing persons. They haven't identified. They're going from mortuary to mortuary. A body that has been found after a while is decomposing. How would you even know this is your kin? What is it that needs to be done so that one can actually help get to identify a body, no matter what state it is in? And are our hospitals equipped to do this?
It does a number on me because this is one through which an investigation has been done, right? Investigative journalists going and finding this out. How many more How many more have been found in Muranga? How many more found in Athi River, Kitengela? How many more, again, that are under wraps? And nobody's talking about them because nobody's gone to find out. How many more have disappeared? Those missing persons that you're talking about, how many more crimes have been committed, kidnappings gone wrong, etc., etc.? We don't know about them. Nobody's talking about them. People maybe even hiding them, sweeping them under the carpet. How many more?
You know, we hear of abductions and we relate abductions to other parts of this continent.
Yeah. West Africa.
Where it seems to be a business. Okay?
Yeah.
But with these increasing numbers, are we really being left behind in this business of abductions? Because the number of cases of people who are being abducted seems to be increasing.
But this one is now weird because in those ones, like you're saying, it's a business. So the kidnappers will demand ransom.
Yes.
The kidnappers will get in touch with the family members and say, we are holding your person and we demand X in return. Here, disappear, no word. No word at all. So people are just wondering, all we know is the last place this person was seen and what happened. After that, nothing.
And these are individuals who could have been missing for years.
Missing, and that's it. It's a big one, this one. Let's take a quick break. It's 13 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room.
I'm actually looking at how it is that events that take place in countries that are far away from us actually end up affecting us. You see, we talk about the Horn of Africa and the issues therein. That one we've discussed and we've actually outlined how it affects us. But now you go to the Middle East. In the not too recent past, the Houthi rebels in Yemen attacked oil installations in the United Arab Emirates. Now, one may think, oh, I see, so there seems to be an issue. Well, yes, the Houthi rebels are supported by Iran. So that entire region is an Islamic region. The religion that they subscribe to is Islam. But there's a fundamental difference. They are Sunnis and they are Shias. So there seems to be a little tiff between Sunnis and Shias here. But the moment you touch oil installations, you know what happens? An area that is known to produce most of the world's oil, you suddenly have a problem in that you introduce new fluctuations of oil prices. And I'm saying this affects us because if you look at the Business Daily, it's the headline.
What does it say?
State accuses oil firms of artificial shortage plot.
So oil firms are colluding to create an artificial shortage.
They wrote, yes, and the collusion is said to have been embedded in a letter that was written by Rubis Energy CEO, a gentleman by the name of Christian Begaron, and the Oil Marketing Association of Kenya, the chairman, Abdi Salad, last month. They wrote a protest letter to the Petroleum Ministry and Energy saying that the importation and offloading of oil that had taken place a while back was illegal, having been done outside the open tender system.
Yes.
Then the debate began. The PS said, you know, you guys attended this meeting where we discussed these things. And you know exactly what was happening. Now, for you to go then and then write such a letter. Now you're being dishonest. Because it's not as though you didn't know. But my point is, if you look at the goings on, essentially, when you talk about an oil shortage, you're talking about raising the prices of oil products, yes. So something happens in the Middle East. We're not really near, we're not next to the Middle East. But suddenly it's going to affect us. Because if you're talking about prices, for instance, you're talking about the possible increase of fuel, which super petrol, as we call it, which would retail at say 129 shillings, could be 144. Diesel that could retail at 110, retailing at 128. Meaning, in the absence of the subsidy that the government put in place, the figures I've mentioned are what we would have been paying. Now, the moment oil installations have been attacked, it means you are saying and suggesting strongly that there will be a shortage of oil supply. Laws of supply and demand. If the demand is high and the supply is low, the price goes whoop.
Exactly.
Precisely. So all of a sudden, we are having a discussion about oil prices in the country simply because there is some disturbance in the Middle East.
Is this the reason why there was this extra importation?
The extra importation over the Christmas period was to, should we say, what the word is cushion.
Yeah.
You simply look ahead and say, as we're going into the new year, inside the new year, why don't we have enough importation
Some extra
to help cushion as we get into the new year?
Right.
This rushing, yes.
And this was a matter that was discussed with all the players, industry players.
According to the PS, yes, everybody was well informed. There is nobody who was not informed.
Rubies, Gulf Energy, they have various, they are fighting a war.
There's a war here, clearly.
On various fronts. One bought some business interest from the other.
One did.
And one then went and complained in court about the information that they had been given to them that determined the price, the purchase price.
What they paid.
What they paid.
Yes.
Guys,
okay. Other
really
stories.
Disturbing story carrying the nation today. Okay. House help pleads guilty to sexually abusing a child. Police in Mombasa have launched investigations into the activities of an international syndicate said to be promoting and trading in child pornography. The cabal, working with rogue house helps, reportedly cashes in on video clips of children being sexually abused. This is really disturbing to hear, just as a warning. The crackdown follows the arrest of a domestic worker who filmed herself having sex with a 4-year-old boy. She then sold the clip to the syndicate. The domestic worker appeared at Ashanzu court, where she pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting the child. According to the prosecution, a 21-year-old woman sexually abused the boy and intentionally and unlawfully produced an audio-visual material of herself committing the crime. She's now currently helping the Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit officers to identify the people behind the trade. Coast Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit head Andrew Waroi said the house help was arrested following a 3-month investigation. Waroi said the unit is investigating several cases of children being sexually abused by their caregivers and videos distributed through online platforms. According to him, we are following up on such cases in Kilifi and Mombasa, where at least 3 children are involved. We also want to stop the distribution of such materials. The court was told that the house help committed the crimes between June 2020 and October 2021. She pleaded guilty to sexually abusing the boy and committing an indecent act with the child, but denied filming the act when she appeared before Chief Magistrate Florence Masharia. The prosecution said the woman, who had been hired by the child's parent, quit her job in October last year. A few days later, the boy's mother received a video clip via WhatsApp from a foreign number, and it was her child. Upon opening the message, the mother saw the video of the woman sexually abusing the boy. In the clip produced, the woman is obviously doing terrible things here. After watching the clip, the boy's mother attempted to reach her, but her known mobile numbers had been switched off. According to the prosecution, she then shared the video with her husband, who reported the matter to the police. The house help was arrested, the mobile phone she was using confiscated and forwarded to the DCI headquarters in Nairobi. Analyses of forensics show that she sent a message to the child's parents asking for an undisclosed amount of money, and she demanded from the employer, and if not, she would then post the clips on social media platforms. The video had been sent to several foreign numbers and payments received for such.
Okay. Let's hope the judicial officer will do something.
Because
so that it's a lesson to this. and anybody else who thinks about it, because there are various violations here.
Untold.
Yeah, various violations here.
Where do you begin here?
It's just, some happier news.
Happier?
Yes.
Okay.
You remember there's has been news about developing a new city in Nairobi, and this is called the Nairobi Railway City. This whole area we call railways, right? Which is the area bordering Haile Selassie Avenue, Uhuru Highway, Bunyala, and Landis Roads, right? Uhuru Highway, down Haile Selassie Avenue, all the way to Railways headquarters, down to Landis Road, and then up to Bunyala. That whole section there is 425 acres. And there are plans by Kenya Railways, supported by the government, to actually create the Nairobi Railway City, which is a multi-use, some residential, office space, business and all, right? So it's receiving some support from the UK government. This week, a UK Minister for Africa, Vicky Ford, was on a 3-day tour of East Africa, came to Kenya, and on Tuesday, they unveiled the designs for the Central Railway Station. And there was a British firm, Atkins Global, that submitted preliminary designs of the entire city. According to an environmental impact assessment on the project, it's going to cost us 27.9 billion shillings to put up utility infrastructure such as pavements, roads, electricity and water supply. Railway infrastructure will take the lion's share, 117 billion shillings. The first phase includes the Central Railway Station, a commercial complex and 2 towers of 5,000 square meters each. The city will also have 700 residential units with affordable housing taking up 70%, with the rest being high-end residences. The project is among the discussions that President Uhuru Kenyatta had with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson in January 2020. So it's been there, it's been in the works, something that seems to be moving. Now you can imagine if you actually turn that whole area into, you put up low-cost residential houses.
Yeah.
You put up business. You look at the railway station and modernize it so it works on the city rail transit system. There are people who work in government and they come up with plans, and then the politicians come in to implement the plans.
And therein lies,
and that's where now things,
start going south.
They take a pause. In a minute, you have something interesting?
No, I was just going to say, this one we can even discuss tomorrow. The Star newspaper seems to be on a roll here. They keep having these polls. Yes.
So this time, what's the latest?
The latest is that Gachagua is the best deputy for the DP, and Kenneth is the best deputy for Raila.
Kenneth who?
Peter
Kenneth?
Yeah.
Oh.
Peter
is the most suitable person to be Raila's running mate.
Yes, and they have listed all manner of things that they claim support this particular view.
And this is after going to the people and asking them?
The respondents were 3,152.
Across the country?
Yes, who were conducted between January 5th and 15th. The details we can discuss tomorrow.
Okay. That will be an interesting one. Keep it right here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. We have Colonel Alice Mate. She's the director of the Asset Recovery Agency. What we want to know is to understand the process of asset recovery. What is it? What's their mandate, this Asset Recovery Agency? What do they do? How do they determine that Ndu's wealth is questionable? Therefore, we need to go and take it. Come and repossess Ndu's house and 3 motor vehicles and 1 tuk-tuk. And what else do you own?
I see what you're doing. Well done.
Coming up in the next hour, good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Activists who mounted a successful case against the Building Bridges Initiative constitutional review process at the Constitutional Court and Court of Appeal have urged Supreme Court justices not to succumb to threats from the executive while determining the appeal. The activists, through lawyer Nelson Harvey, pleaded with a 7-judge bench headed by Chief Justice Martha Koome to be firm and uphold the Court of Appeal ruling that deemed the BBI process unconstitutional, null and void. The activists include economist David Ndii, Jerotich Sei, James Ngondi, Wanjiku Gikonyo and Ekal Angele. He submitted that the basic structure doctrine is applicable in Kenya and that any altercation to the constitution would constitute a violation of the document. And businessman Jimmy Wanjigi has been freed after he was discharged from taking plea in the land fraud case facing him pending the hearing and determination of an application before the High Court. While issuing the directions, Presiding Magistrate Bernardo Choi stated that the prosecution had confirmed that indeed Wanjigi had obtained an order stopping his arrest and prosecution. He stated that in view of the order issued by Justice Anthony Mrima, the court cannot proceed with the criminal case until a decision is made by the Superior Court. He pointed out that Wanjigi's lawyer Willis Otieno had informed the court that the order stopping the prosecution of his client was duly served upon then Inspector General of Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions. Ochoy further directed that his co-accused, except for his wife Nzesa, should appear for the mention of their case in January 24th. Meanwhile, Wanjigi is accusing the police of being used to settle political scores. In a statement, he says that the DCI were aggressive political agents rather than law enforcers. He noted that his arrest had nothing to do with claims being made by the DCI, but that he is being politically harassed, threatened and silenced to force him to stop his aggressive presidential campaign. He is accusing Odinga of betrayal.
Judas Iscariot, who for 30 pieces of silver, betrayed the truth and justice, which was exemplified by Jesus Christ. They say when somebody shows you who he is, he advertises himself, don't doubt him. Do not doubt him.
And Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga has urged losers in different elective posts under the Azimio movement not to exit the political outfit. Speaking during a meeting with northeastern leaders under the UPIA movement, Odinga stated that there can only be one winner in any elective seat and assured that losers will be accommodated in his government if he ascends to presidency. The ODM leader pointed out that there will be many contenders under the Azimio movement and warned that moving to the opponent's side is not a viable solution. And a 20-year-old student at Kirinyaga University died after falling from the third floor of an apartment building in Kiambu's Juja town following an argument with another man believed to be his girlfriend's lover. The victim, identified as Taylor Mbuthia, a second-year student, died on the spot after hitting the ground floor. Mbuthia is said to have been partying with his girlfriend and her other alleged partner. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation states that before meeting his death, the victim had visited his girlfriend, a first-year student at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Nyambura is reported to have hosted the party together with her roommate and another man who later joined them before an argument ensued, which led to Mbuthia's death. The Ugandan registered Sarai Group suffered yet another blow after the High Court in Kakamega declined to issue fresh orders, vacating an earlier decision to suspend its lease of the Mumias Sugar Company. The court had issued the suspension order on January 11th in a suit filed by Kakamega County. In a ruling, Justice William Musyoka stated that from the documents before the court, he did not find sufficient cause to issue orders sought by the plaintiff because the issue of conflicting orders was alive. Justice Musyoka further directed that all parties in the case submit their documents to court and that the applications and preliminary objections by the lawyers representing both sides be heard together. The matter will be heard in Kakamega High Court on January 28th. And a defiant Boris Johnson has vowed to remain British Premier and contest the next election as calls for his resignation snowballed and a former Brexit minister demanded he quit. Despite the dramatic defection of one Conservative MP to the opposition Labour Party, Johnson insisted he would win in any no-confidence vote called by the ruling Conservative Party. Many in the Tory party and the country at large are furious at revelations that Downing Street staff were partying while the rest of the country was in strict lockdown against COVID. The former cabinet minister, who quit as Brexit secretary in Theresa May's government, has become Johnson's most high-profile opponent since the Prime Minister gave a much-derided TV interview. When we talk about COVID-19 back home, we continue to urge you to continue observing the COVID-19 protocols. Go get vaccinated against the same so that together we may win the fight against COVID-19. This is Newswire. My name is Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, so we're looking at some traffic that's building up on Mombasa Road quite significantly inbound. The southern bypass not looking too bad, so there's an option for you to use. Yesterday was an absolute nightmare for a lot of folks, so you might want to think about this early and use the bypass. It's going to be a longer route, but it beats sitting in traffic for 3.5 hours, n'est-ce pas? I think so. On Langata Road this morning, it's slow getting into the city. Raila Odinga Way, right at the roundabout as you connect to Gong Road, is where you'll find most of the traffic. It's also building up on Uhuru Highway going into the city and then out towards Westlands. Jogo Road started early, it's still a thing. We're looking at Landis Road, then going towards the Kamkunji roundabout, also clogging up some, and Thika Super Highway. A lot more traffic than we had seen earlier. And this is going all the way far back as Roy sampled this morning. So that's one to watch for. Kiambu Road also quite tight. It's also looking heavy on Limuru Road this morning. Coming out of Westlands, traffic is doing its thing. Red Hill Link Road give you some good options to get out of that traffic. So there are options. Let's use them this morning. Let's talk, however, of things that do get a little bit stickier. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
The only way to start your day. Yes, there are some arguments. Or can it be the only way? Maybe just say it's one of the ways. No, it's the only way to start your day. This, The Situation Room. It's Thursday, the 20th day of January 2022. It's Justice Thursdays, and today we have a double dose of Justice Thursday. But let's hear the day's proverb first from CT.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe.
Yes, if you were to translate it as directly as possible, the envious eye goes everywhere. That's kila pembe. East and west.
For many people, I'm sure it's the word hasidi that's just going to be confusing. So hasidi ni nani?
Huyu hasidi kwao ni wapi? Hasidi, envy. An envious person. You know, the thing about Proverbs, among the many qualities that Proverbs have, I remember we keep saying it. One, they are simple, straightforward proverbs that you don't really need some profound interpretation. It's clear.
It's clear.
Yes. And it's purposed that way. It addresses the obvious. And it tells you something that, in essence, you may ask, but what's the profound meaning? No, there's no profound meaning. It's a reminder that a certain quality will be expressed in a certain manner. Now, if you then want to load it with profound analysis,
then carry on.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're free to do so.
Please go ahead.
It's a free country after all. So, Justice Thursdays. Today, let's talk about asset recovery. We talk about this many times when you find it in a story in the paper. The Asset Recovery Agency has gone to court. Remember the case of two students recently? Two students who, you have a boyfriend gives you a gift, boyfriend decides to give you a gift, and then someone in government decides, no.
How can
you get a gift of 100 million shillings? How much did you want me to get? And so such cases are in court, and they have been taken to court by the Asset Recovery Agency. So we want to understand what this agency does. And joining us is the head of this agency, the director, Colonel Alice Mate. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio, Colonel.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you for having me. I am actually indeed very delighted to come and share with you and the rest of the Kenyans what is the Asset Recovery Agency, because we are not that well known. So we need people to understand what indeed is the Asset Recovery Agency, what do we do, what is the process of recovering these assets, why do we recover some assets and not others. So I'm happy to be here and to shed some light on that.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Colonel Alice Mate.
Correct.
This is what, 5 ranks to the top?
Where is the top?
Senior military general.
Actually, she's
That's a very good question.
She's actually one step away from being a one-star general.
Imagine.
Yes, one step.
Just there.
Absolutely.
Next up, brigadier, and then that's Quisha.
Correct.
It's a pleasure to have a senior serving military officer in the studio. So, are you still serving, or have you exited the military?
I have not exited the military, Eric. I'm still serving. So I'm still under the KDF law, as we call it, the tough KDF law that still applies to me. I am on secondment from the KDF. As you're aware, KDF officers can be seconded to serve just about anywhere on the globe. And it is part of this service that I've been seconded to the Asset Recovery Agency to serve in that capacity.
Okay. How long have you been there?
The Asset Recovery Agency, this is my 11th month. Yeah.
Just about to clock a year.
Just about to clock a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll discuss other aspects of your tenure. But first of all, just tell us what is the mandate of the ARA?
Now, very good question. And what brought me here, actually. The mandate of the ARA, first of all, ARA has been established under the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. This is an act that was passed by Parliament in the year 2009. Yes? And why was the act passed? First of all, we were trying to fight. There was the issue of money laundering that was rampant at that time. There was the issue of terrorism financing that was rampant at that time. There were issue of international obligations that we had to comply with. And so Parliament passed the law to combat money laundering, to combat terrorism financing. Right? Under this law, they established 2 institutions for this sole purpose, the twin purpose. They established the Financial Reporting Center and the Asset Recovery Agency. The Asset Recovery Agency, therefore, is established under the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. And the mandate of this recovery agency is to recover, very simply, proceeds of crime.
How do you then decide what you're going to go after or not? Or is there a list that comes to you from like the EACC and says, well, you might want to check here? Or how do you decide?
Well, it's actually a very lengthy process. It's not like we wake up one day and we are told, whoa, Eric owns an apartment somewhere. Can you just go and take that one from him? It doesn't work like that. First, it is intelligence-based, number one. First of all, you hear the 2 institutions that have been established under the Act.
Yeah.
So it is intelligence-based, basically. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into it. The first thing that happens is we get the intelligence. Then what do we do after the intelligence?
Intelligence here, you mean what?
Well, it comes from information. Let's call it information.
Oh,
I may use the word intelligence because I'm in the military.
Intelligence.
Making us feel a bit nervous. Yeah.
All right, you get information.
Okay.
That's probably a better word. You get information that something is suspicious. Something is not adding up with a certain transaction, with a certain deal, something. And this can come from anywhere. It can come from the general public. It can come from other law enforcement agencies. It can come from just an individual reporting.
Financial institutions, banks, for example?
Banks.
Okay.
That is the whole idea behind the Financial Reporting Center, because when we go to the banks, we are supposed to make a report. If you know that if you do over the 1 million shilling, you're supposed to actually declare what that is all about. Yeah. And because of the know your client, a rule in the bank, so they have to report. And this reporting is to the Financial Reporting Center. So the Financial Reporting Center has to receive all this information from all the banks, sieve it through, which one is really suspicious. Even them, they just kind of sieve the information before they relay it to whoever they feel is most responsible for now reacting or following up on the information that has been dispatched. On our part, when we receive that information, then we have to do our preliminary investigations. Yes, because we don't want to just rush to court. We don't know, is there any basis for this? So by the time we are taking the very first step, at least we have the prelims that, something is just does not add up here. And because at that point is still, say, we have not brought it to the limelight what is happening, and we need the courts. It's really the entire process is a court process. We have to go to the court, then tell the court, we have received this information that there may be something happening in, for instance, this and this account. We are requesting for your authority to investigate this account. And before we do so, please allow us to freeze this account so that the money does not dissipate. Because if we're investigating and by the time we are coming to the account there's nothing, then it will be an exercise in futility. So we start there. That is a starting process. We tell the court, allow us to investigate. In the meantime, allow us to just keep the status quo until when we find out what exactly is happening. When the court allows that, it's really the discretion of the court. Then we start the investigation. Once we have now started the investigation, we call you, can tell us what is happening.
This term money laundering, I've always found it a bit puzzling because as you're speaking, I was thinking now, if Eric has conducted some business and he has been paid, and there are people he doesn't want them to know that he has this money, and he sends it to me to keep, are we laundering money?
Not really. Depends with the explanation that you're going to give us.
So what's the threshold for laundering?
Yes, that's a good question, the threshold. You see, you must, there are processes that entail the money laundering. First of all, I have received, and it's not normally small money.
Okay. Stop.
Yes.
What is small?
What is small?
Small?
just 2 million.
Yes.
Yamboga. All right. When you say, what, again, threshold?
Yes.
What amounts raise eyebrows?
Oh, well. We, as the Asset Recovery Agency, we don't want to go to come after you if you're dealing with 1,000 shillings, you're dealing with 2,000 shillings, you're dealing with even 100,000 shillings, because you see, first of all, it is rampant. And if we are going to clog ourselves with dealing with 200,000 shillings, then we'll never get any work done. So as an agency, it's just a policy, really, that we need to deal with these amounts of money that have an impact in the society, right? So that we don't really bog ourselves down with your 500,000.
Okay.
We are aware that, yes, some people are engaged in that, but the agency is all about, the impact in the society. We want to deal with the vice. We want deterrence. It is all about deterrence from people engaging in these criminal activities. So how do we do that? We are passing a message. The whole idea, in fact, is to take away the benefit of these crime activities that you may have engaged in. Can we take it away? Right? And money laundering, really, you must be able to, that's why I'm saying there are processes. You have the money, you want to place it somewhere, and then you conceal it. So that's it's not just one layer of you giving some money to Eric. People go into great lengths to hide this money. You layer it, and you realize they have come up with corporations, that their names are not even appearing on those corporations, but the real beneficiary of this money
same.
is actually where it started. And it can go in circles. But when you actually do the investigations and you follow the link, it leads you to who was the real owner.
So the person who's basically doing a good job at money laundering is doing a good job at hiding.
Absolutely.
Okay? And that means that for you to catch this person, you also need to be up there, to be up there in the game. So what is it that you need to do to be able to, nab this person? I mean, what kind of competencies are we talking about at the Asset Recovery Agency?
You really must be on top of your game, to be very honest, because the criminals are also, they're keeping ahead of us all the time. But at the agency, we have also a lot of competencies. We have forensic investigators. We have financial analysts. In fact, a bulk of what we do on a day-to-day basis is just to financial analysis of, you can imagine the bank statements that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's just too much. Some people are just seated trying to sift through which transaction was done on which day to which account. So those competencies are key for the agency. Financial investigators, financial analysts, and just investigators, your day-to-day askari, the investigator that we know, who is just doing the normal work of collecting witness statements, come and tell us what was your role in this money being dispatched from this account to the next account. We have those, and that forms a bulk of what to do. So by the time we are going to the court, actually, we have done a lot of this legwork. Yeah.
There's a term that one hears very often,
yes,
and it's often with regards to politicians and maybe business people, ostensibly successful. It's called lifestyle audit.
Yes.
Now, it seems self-explanatory, but as a layperson, the impression I get is that somebody has been observing you and they have an idea of what it is you earn, and your lifestyle and what they believe you earn, they don't seem to tally.
They don't match up.
Yes. You seem to be living way beyond what it is that you have declared you earn. Please, walk us through the process of how you identify such people.
And that is, I don't know if you've been following this conversation that we have been having with the lawyers, that we have been asking. We asked Parliament to assist us in having the lawyers to become reporting institutions under the Process of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act, because we have realized in the discharge of this service, everybody who is engaging in money laundering, believe you me, has a lawyer behind who is assisting them.
Yeah.
And we have, figures that we can take you through that, in this particular case, it is such and such lawyer who assisted to hide, and eventually the money disappears, or we were able to get it, or something like that. The lawyers have been up in arms fighting it, of course. However, we were just telling them, and that is why Parliament agreed with us. If you're dealing with a client, you have been dealing with Colonel Alice Mate, for instance. I'm your client, and have been your client from X years. I've been coming to you, assist me buy this land in wherever, and the property was worth 1 million shillings, 2 million shillings. So the threshold of Colonel Alice Mate. Yeah, she buys properties worth 1 million shillings. That's what we have been doing with this client of ours, Colonel Alice. Out of the blues, I come to you. Oh, Wakili, now I'll have this money where I need you to buy me a property worth 50 million, whatever. Please identify for me. I have some 50 million shillings that we need to invest. Really, as a reasonable person in the society, what does that tell you? And I'm not telling you that, I got some... what do you call inheritance, or that I won a lottery somewhere,
or all this land I've been buying, I sold them all,
or I've consolidated. Could also be a consolidation of all these things. I'm just telling you, I have some 50 million shillings that I need you to buy for me, and we are saying, as a reasonable person, that should tell you
that there's something wrong.
Something has happened. Unless I'm able to explain myself satisfactorily, as to where the 50 million shillings has come from, that then becomes a suspicious transaction.
Is there an explanation that will be given that is satisfactory?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And by the way, we've had cases of people who have huge monies. And of course, we do what we have to do in the first instance, restrict it. And we carry out the investigations. And then if you do come and you actually are able to explain to us the source of this is how I came about it, it is a legit transaction, we let it go.
Okay.
We let it go.
All right. So you've talked about the fact that obviously there's an investigative arm at the agency.
Yes.
Right? So then when does the handover of information then change from agency to now those who have prosecutorial powers and things like this, for now those assets to become, because it's due then, after you've done the investigations and you found 1, 2, 3, and you're satisfied that this individual or this entity has not gotten these assets in a proper manner, then you've done your investigation. Do you hand it over to somebody else, or do you continue the process within the agency?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yes, the agency has police powers. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that. We have police powers under the Act, so that it gives us these powers to investigate. So that we're able to investigate, the Act has given us those police powers. Now, the agency also, we prosecute the matters ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, we have lawyers on board who are the people who go to court. And by the way, even the investigations, like we are together so that it's the same agency. It's not like we have it's a department. Actually, let me put it more clear. It's a department in the agency. We have the investigation department. We have the legal department, which has all these lawyers.
Yeah.
We have the financial analysis. We have the asset management, which is a very, very critical department in the agency. And so even the investigators, when they are going about the investigations, it's not like they are alone out there. We are sitting together as the lawyers and looking at each case on its own merit. What else do we need to get here? What next? So we are not getting an outside person. Okay. We are doing it internally. Yeah. Yes. And it's really a civil process, if I may say so. Because, and I think this needs to come out clearly, the way the law has been developed is that there are it's a two-pronged approach to the fight against crime generally. Yes, there's a prosecution. The prosecution, where we are prosecuting Eric for the offense of fraud or trafficking in human beings or trafficking in drugs or whatever.
Narcotics.
Yes. So the prosecution will deal with Eric. Asset recovery agency, on the other hand, will come and deal with the benefit that you have accrued as Eric as a result of
that thing that I was doing.
Of that crime activity or the criminal activity.
So you go after the benefit?
We go after the benefit. We don't deal with the person.
So ODPP will take me to court.
Absolutely.
Over the criminal aspect of this, which
Absolutely.
is, let's say, trafficking in narcotic substances. And then, I bought several cars, several yachts here and there. And this is where Kanwali Smart and the ARA come now for their yachts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's an entire difference.
And
for
so
us,
those two, are they going on concurrently, or is it one after the other?
it is, we have tried to draw a distinction, because what we have realized is that the prosecution of the person, Eric, takes quite some time. And because the law has allowed us a civil process that now allows us to get the benefit from you. And believe you me, Eric, when we take away the benefit from you, you feel the pinch more than you'll probably even feel when you go to court and you're out on bail, the first day, and you'll be enjoying the benefits tomorrow.
Yeah.
So when we take away the benefit from you, it's actually passing the message harder, if you ask me. And eventually you'll get convicted, but at least we'll have taken away the benefit from you.
But you're punishing me even before I've been found guilty.
Absolutely not.
But is it really punishment? Is it really punishment?
Yeah.
Or is it just balancing the scales?
The criminal case is still ongoing.
Yes.
But the Asset Recovery Agency has come and frozen my accounts.
Yes.
So I haven't been found guilty yet.
Yes.
And the assumption is that I'm innocent.
I'm innocent
otherwise.
until found
Thank you.
guilty.
Thank you.
But
Thank
now
you,
you've
Eric.
frozen my account. I am not able to eat life
Buy Muga.
and hang with the big boys.
All right. Eric, and that is why I'm saying you need to draw a distinction between Eric the person and the yacht that you bought from this activity. You're right. As an accused person, we have not infringed on it. You are having your fair trial in court. But you have a right to this illegally acquired property.
Okay.
Let me take a break. We'll come back to that. It's 7:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. With us in the studio this morning is Colonel Ali Smarte. She is the director of the Asset Recovery Agency. We want to understand what they do and how they go about it. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Digital technology is an integral part of any successful business, and staying up to date with the latest in digital technology is key to giving your business a competitive edge. On Saturday, 29th January, I, Olivia Otieno, is taking 00 Direct live and on location for the Digital Technology for Women in Business, a free must-attend forum for women business owners seeking to grow their businesses within the digital space. To attend, simply visit www.spicefm.co.ke to register at no cost. Digital technology for women in business in partnership with Visa. She's next. Empower her.
All right, the sun is peeking through those clouds in Nairobi at 15, highs of 25 and lows of 14 today at 13 degrees. Nakuru is clear, highs of 24 and lows of 12. Mostly cloudy conditions at 12 in Nyeri, highs of 26 and lows of 11. It's sunny in Eldoret at 11, highs of 23. Looking into Mombasa, sunny conditions at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Sun's up also in Malindi at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 25. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 18, highs of 27 and lows of 17. Kakamega is cloudy at 16, highs of 28 and lows of 14. Clear in Kampala, highs of 28, and it's cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 25. We'll see highs of 31. Partly cloudy conditions at 14 in Johannesburg, highs of 25 today. And Lagos, there's a haze over the city still. It'll be a warm day though, highs of 33 and lows of 22. And the rain continues in Kinshasa at 24. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, we're in traffic hour proper. What are we looking at on the streets today? Jogo Road is doing its thing today, and very, very heavily so. The Southern Bypass not looking too bad. And we're also looking at Mombasa Road, still quite heavy. That Weybridge area going then towards the SGR, very easily can spend an hour and a half there and a stretch of just about 5 minutes. So it's not fun times, but after the General Motors seems to be flowing all right, at least for today. Langata Road is still messy, and Uhuru Highway is building up all the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout through to Westlands today. The Thika Superhighway, ebbing and flowing, not doing too badly. Now we're looking at traffic just past the Utali Drift. Kiambu Road, packed. Limuru Road, packed. Coming out of Westlands, you guessed it, packed. We'll keep an eye on things this morning. Let us know what's happening in your area. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 26 minutes to 8. Conversation continues. This is the Situation Room with Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga. And our guest this hour is Colonel Ali Smarte, Director of the Asset Recovery Agency. When we were going to the break, you are explaining the concurrent process that's taking place here. There's a criminal process with the ODPP and then the Asset Recovery Agency, which comes to apply for the freezing of the assets of the suspect who's going through the criminal case. Ndu had a burning question.
Right. So I'm looking at the judicial process, which obviously now different area from you. However, a lot of times, by the time prosecution comes before and is now leveling charges, and many times we'll hear a judge will say, no. You people go back. You clearly, in terms of your threshold, in terms of evidence, have not met the threshold. So please go back, do your homework and bring this to us. Now, by the time you're going as the ARA to a judge and saying, freeze this account or freeze this asset, do not allow them to use it anymore in order to enjoy your gain. Have you gotten to the point that without shadow of doubt that the trail can be made between this asset, whether it is in funds or something else, it is a direct result of money that has been gotten from an untoward circumstance? Okay. Is there absolute proof and watertight that that is the case, or is it on a whim of guessing?
Okay. Thank you for that question. It's definitely not on a whim of guessing, because I've told you the processes that that goes into, by the time we are getting, even before we present ourselves before the magistrates' courts, for us to freeze these monies, there's a lot of work that has gone into it. Yes, so that we are not guessing. It's not about guesswork.
It's not like maybe this one fits here.
No. It's not guesswork. In fact, we have been having engagements with the judiciary, and you see, it's about coming together, getting to know what it is that we do, and so that the judiciary is also aware about what we need to take to them, what we need to take to them for them to understand us, and for us also to understand them. So, and what has clearly come out as ARA, we don't take cases that we are thinking, okay, maybe we're not so sure here. Yeah, it is the work that has been done before we get there is quite a lot. But anyway, getting to your question. There are two processes that have been provided for under the law that has established us, which is the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. There are two ways which we can recover the proceeds of crime. It has given us something they call the criminal forfeiture. Yes, which is you have been convicted, you have been taken, you've been charged, you've gone through the court process, you've been convicted, and out of that process there were some assets. And the court, by the way, on its own motion, can order for a forfeiture of whatever assets that are involved at that stage. Okay. If the court does not order for a forfeiture of those proceeds, then it is ARA that's supposed to come in and make an application for those assets to be forfeited to the state. Now, that application will be a civil application after the conviction. You know, in law, there is a criminal law, there is a civil law.
Yes.
The balance or the threshold for these processes is different in both cases. The criminal law, that's why you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. The civil law, which is now what happens in the commercial courts and everywhere else, it is on a balance of probabilities. When we balance it out, which way does it go? Did you actually acquire this correctly, or did you not acquire it properly? Now, the other route that has been availed to us under the law for us to recover these proceeds is something they call the civil forfeiture. Civil forfeiture is not a criminal process. It is a civil process. All right? So the civil process, then, we have established ourselves. You know, we are clear that all is not adding up here. There's an illegality involved. There's an offense actually. Or you either trafficked drugs, you trafficked human beings, and as a result, you have acquired this much. And we are going before the court. So then, the balance or the threshold that is required in the civil forfeiture, it is on a balance of probabilities, which is a civil. And then, you know what happens during the civil forfeiture is that the burden shifts. The burden then does not rest on ARA to prove without a reasonable doubt that indeed it is not a proceed of crime. The burden shifts to you, to prove that to come and tell us, come on, there's nothing wrong here. This is how I got it. And that is why we have a real perfect tool for fighting crime.
Because you just take me to court and you sit back.
I don't sit back. I do not sit back. By the time I'm taking you, I am sure that you are involved in
sure that there's something that has gone wrong.
in fact, it's always out of an investigation.
Right.
We have these facts, and we have also invited you, by the way, to come and tell us your side of the story. And more often than not, you have no explanation for it.
That's why you end up in court.
Yes.
So if somebody comes to you and is able to explain in a manner that is convincing, and with evidence, of course, that this is how they accumulate or whatever they have, then you have no need to take them to court.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are there instances where you can see, all right, so 80% of the wealth of this person could have been acquired properly. There's 20% that's questionable, and therefore you go to court seeking freezing of only the 20%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, the definition of proceeds of crime under the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act is so broad. It's so broad because they say that it is a benefit or an economic advantage that you have acquired either directly or indirectly. So it could be, it has come to me directly or through another cause. But then they also say it is on the basis of a proportion. So that if it is 80% of that asset that was acquired, like you bought some land properly, and then somewhere along the way you got some other illicit money to develop that property.
Okay.
So it will be on a proportion basis.
What if it's the other way around?
Yes.
So I got some money illicitly, I invested in something, and from that point on, the proceeds of that have just been clean. I mean, from the proceeds of this, I went and now bought another piece of land clean. I developed it clean. I sold the properties clean.
Eric.
But it's just that the seed is what
I'm glad he also has an answer for that one.
Wow. No.
I reformed.
The foundation.
Along the way.
Yeah, I got some money. You remember that our job?
Yes,
with
that business of ours.
That
Yes,
business
yes.
of ours. So we got paid. Okay?
Yeah.
And it was a one-off contract.
Yes,
And it was
was.
a good one.
It was a really good one.
So we get paid.
But we supplied. That's why we're able to be paid.
Yeah, but
Yes.
we know now there are issues that the DPP will bring. Now,
Yes.
we got paid, we got this money. I went from that initial 2 billion shillings, I went and invested in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hey, Eric, that amount was not 2 billion. When did it amount to 2 billion?
You didn't know.
You mean, hey, yeah, okay, carry on.
See now, this is these are the witnesses who come.
Yes, he'll come and give us a statement, which will support us.
So after the initial money that I got, okay, the 2B, let's say, I went and invested in something. But then I decided I'm not going to
Engage any further
in
I have
corrupt
now
dealings.
transformed.
I've transformed. With this money now, the proceeds of this, I'm going now to operate clean business. Are you going after my clean business?
Okay. As long as the foundation is not good, then even the fruits are not good. Because this is it. It's an income from the proceed.
Okay.
So even the income then becomes a proceed.
Okay. Another part of the question.
Yes.
The Pandora Papers.
Yes.
So are you able to freeze assets that are not in the country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now,
so how do you get the
this-
information
this
about them?
is,
How do you investigate? How do you have jurisdiction, for example, with accounts that are held offshore?
Okay. Now, the law, like I started by saying, it was created as a result to a problem that was in the society, and not just within Kenya. In fact, there are conventions that have actually given this mandate of asset recovery, and that's how, in fact, even our own asset recovery came about. It was a way of dealing with financing of terrorism. We needed to combat that. It was a way of dealing with transnational organized crime. Yes. So when we are talking about the transnational organized crime, it's not, confined to one jurisdiction. Yeah, it is all over the place. And so these conventions have put in place what they call, we are supposed to, as a state party to these conventions, we're supposed to come up with competent authorities. Competent authorities in that, as a state, Kenya, we have established the Asset Recovery Agency as a competent authority to be able to deal with another competent authority in another jurisdiction in matters money laundering, in matters drug trafficking, in matters human trafficking, whatever it is that we are dealing with. So as a competent authority, then you're able to deal if the money is in the Bahamas, for instance. And there are two competent authorities that have been established, as I said earlier. The Financial Reporting Center, so that if it's money in a bank that has come from Belgium, the Financial Reporting Center has a counterpart in Belgium who we can speak to and we understand each other.
Okay.
So it's possible. And international cooperation is always being encouraged under all this convention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, second, the other bit of the question, forfeiture. So let's say you've gone through the process and the judicial officer agrees with you and forfeiture is ordered. So who actually takes over these assets?
Okay. Thank you. Asset management. I said earlier that we have a department that is called asset management, which is critical because at the point of we have come to seize the property, we are just starting. It's the starting phase. That property has not yet been determined to belong to the state at that point. And so therefore, we cannot then give it up or dispose it for purposes of the funds going back to the state at that point. So we have, and the agency has been given this mandate. And the same act that I've been referring to over and over again, that we are supposed to manage.
Let me say it. It is the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act.
Well, correct. We normally shorten it as POCAMLA because we know it's quite a mouthful. So we just call it POCAMLA. It makes our work a little bit easier. So then, we manage these properties during the court process. And the court process is lengthy. So it is the responsibility of the agency to manage the properties. If it's like an apartment that is bringing in rental income, that rental income, we have an account where the money goes, but it is not forfeited to the state at that point. We are just holding it until when the disposal of the proceedings is over. When eventually it is determined that indeed it is a proceed of crime, then it is forfeited to the state.
Okay.
And what the law has said is that all properties that are recovered on behalf of the state.
Okay.
Yes, so everything goes back to the state.
So what does that mean? So you've been given possession of this block of apartments.
Yes.
Now this one now belongs to the government.
Absolutely.
Does it say that? So does this asset management department at ARA now become the landlord, or are you required to sell it?
The law also, the good thing with our law is that it is very clear in black and white. You don't even have to think about it. It says we are supposed to dispose it. If it's money that we have recovered, then we just transfer it to the consolidated fund.
Okay.
Yes. If it is a property, then we are supposed to dispose it off under the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. Using the public procurement laws, we dispose it and the money goes back to the consolidated fund.
Okay. Now, you talked about the different avenues through which you will get information. Do political whistleblowers ever come into this? I mean, we're privy to this, proclamations all the time that there are some people in high positions of government who may have. How do you deal with that? Have you had cases where you've started to go after somebody who is high in political stead? Have you?
Absolutely. By the way, the way we deal with these issues, you'll get information from just about anywhere. It could be a political case, somebody is being persuaded politically, but they'll come and give us that information anyway. But you see, we don't take anything on the face value. Because if it's political persuaded kind of reporting, and then we just run to court with it, you'll end up not doing what you're really supposed to do. So with this information, we'll treat the information that we get about the political person the same way we treat all the information that we get. What we have to do is investigate, yes, and establish the authenticity of this report. Then we just take it through the process. Yeah.
Is it your business also then to know what happens with either assets, proceeds from them that is now sent to the consolidated fund according to the act? Is it your business to know what's done with that after? I'll tell you what I'm asking. We've heard from the Office of the ODP every now and then, even from the EACC, that we can see that it would be possible to make things better in the country if, right? Proceeds from some of these, cases of corruption or such would then be injected back into the economy, right? So it would look as though proceeds that you get from, offsetting some of these things sit in a fund somewhere and just hang there until,
Until when we feel, like if you've recovered 50 million, say for instance, it's good money, right? Yes. But what would be the impact in the society? So we want to give the consolidated fund
time to
and by
rack
the
up
way,
its
and by
balance.
the way, the ARA has been given the mandate to manage all these recovered assets, not just by the ARA, by everybody else who's recovering, including the EACC. It is the ARA that's supposed to manage all those assets in what is called the Criminal Assets Recovery Fund. Yes? So we are supposed to bring it into a fund. Tunaweka kila kitu yenye imekuwa recovered.
And thereafter?
And thereafter,
when do you decide it's enough, and then after that, what do you do?
You see, every financial year, you know, Ndu, government is run on the basis of each financial year. Yes. So each financial year, how much have we recovered? Yes. How much are we? And some of this, and this is what I'm saying. It's really a court process, so that we may have preserved what is called preservation, and we are still getting the rental income or whatever it is from that property. But it's still going through the processes, so that the account may appear to have a lot of money that is just being generated from all these incomes, but bado kesi jaisha. So until
it's still
it is
not yours.
Yes, it is still not ours.
Colonel, there's something I want to ask.
Yes.
I look at the MOUs that countries have, say, with some of these destinations that political leaders have chosen to take their country's money to. And I look at the processes of, even when it is determined that that money that is nestled in those countries is illegal, the repatriation of that money is a very lengthy process.
It is.
And in many instances, those countries will not give money back to the country. They say they will give it back in development projects and things like that. I put that aside. I then look at the governors that we have in this country. They are easy to target in that we know the monies they are given. We know what they were before they became governors. We know what they then are when they become governors. And many of them have pending cases with the Anti-Corruption Commission, and I'm sure your department also has issues with them. Now, when monies from such individuals and such institutions are then gathered, surely it's money that came from the county. Should it not go back to the county?
Absolutely. I agree with you. And this is, you see, it's an arrangement that we are going to get into as the agency, now that we are the managers of this fund. When we are returning it to the consolidated fund, there's nothing that stops us with agreeing with the Treasury. Okay, we are refunding some 50 million shillings. This 50 million shillings was stolen from the NYS, for instance. We feel it would be better utilized if it was channeled towards NYS activities. Nothing stops us from that. But then the money has to be returned to the consolidated fund, and then Treasury then allocates this money to these government, other agencies that requires the money. But then the other issue that we haven't even talked about are the motor vehicles. By the way, the agency recovers a lot of motor vehicles, because you'll realize a lot of the people who get these illicit funds are very, very quick to invest in.
You want to bring bang
in cars.
With the big boys.
So we have a lot of motor vehicles that we just then agree, and we look at the government and we call for expressions of interest. Who requires these motor vehicles more than anything? So that instead of disposing it off, because if you think of now going to dispose a motor vehicle, the value you're going to get out of it is really not much. And you feel that it will probably be better utilized if you put it to the use of a policeman, for instance. If we give it to this police station, it's likely the impact is going to be felt more. Yeah. So there are all these issues to be thought about and discussed at the point of repatriation. Again, the issue of the international other jurisdictions when they're repatriating the monies to the state, it's a lengthy process. They have it's what we call the big brother mentality. So we just have to deal with it the way it is coming. However, the Convention on Corruption, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, actually states when the money has been recovered, it's supposed to be repatriated to the source, to the country where the money was stolen from, and there really ought not to be any conditions that are attached to it, but they're supposed to return. Okay. That is what the convention says. But there is a big brother mentality.
Tell us about the success stories that you have had so far. You talked about, it's financial years.
Yes.
In the 2019, 2020, 2021, and so far, how much has ARA been able to recover?
Thank you. Eric, can I speak to the 11 months that I've been there?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I've only been there for 11 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you I have done well, if I may say so myself, for the 11 months that I have been there.
With all humility, of course.
Of course. With all humility. With all humility, yes. So, so far I think we have, at the preservation level, we have about 6 billion, which is now still going through the court processes.
Okay.
Forfeiture maybe about 100 million has been forfeited for the last 1 year. Or there.
100 million.
I don't have the figures forfeited completely, like we have concluded.
Compare this
the one
now
that
to-
the one that I can actually think of right now. At least I can think of 2 forfeitures that we have had concluded or more. Let me just put it conservatively at 100, 150. But about 6 billion is going through the process. So before the end of this,
6 billion is frozen.
yes.
Let's
In terms of, and you know, we don't just freeze money. We also freeze
money
properties.
plus property,
Yes.
motor vehicles, assets, whatever. Now let's compare those 11 months to the previous 11 months.
Previous 11 months, that is before I came in. Yes.
So how much?
Well, that we'll have to look at the books, but there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot that has been going on. And by the way, I think I should tell you the story of the agency, the history of the agency, because sometimes we don't know that the agency has not been running for that long. Yes, the agency started its operations in 2015, and this is a time, in fact, when we are now trying to grow the jurisprudence in the court, so that everybody can understand what is asset recovery agency. And we are telling them this is a tool that has been given to us. It's a best tool to fight crime, and so the jurisprudence, even at the start, from 2015 to today, it's probably about 7 years thereabout. So it's been a learning process for everybody, everybody involved.
The trajectory is upwards.
Absolutely.
What I want to know is, do you have a way of measuring whether your activities act as an effective deterrent?
We sure hope that we are deterring criminals.
Impact.
Yes, because if I take away...
assessment.
We sure hope, and that's why I'm here, so that I can talk to you, so that you can, the people who are thinking about engaging in money laundering can see really it's not going to pay. Because then when it comes to the years of area, we are going to come for the benefit. For us, we look for the benefit. We'll not go after you, but we'll come for the benefit. So ultimately, it will not pay.
Kano, you're the second director of
Yes.
the Asset Recovery Agency.
Correct.
Now, there's a case before court.
Correct.
Let's not discuss the merits of the case. But the process in law, is there a process of appointing a director of these agencies?
Absolutely. Yes, there is an amendment that was passed just December this year.
Last year.
Last year, sorry. Thank you. December last year. The law that was actually requiring the lawyers to report suspicious transactions also has put in place an advisory board for the Asset Recovery Agency. It is now the advisory board that is supposed to appoint. Actually, it is still the Attorney General who is going to appoint, but on the recommendation of...
So there's a recruitment process.
There is a recruitment process.
Okay.
Correct.
There's a question about, you are one of the very many military officers who are serving in government now. I'm sure you've been asked this question before, so just respond to it. How many other military officers do we have?
How many other?
Not how many, that's not the question. The issue of where we see very many serving military officers now coming to take up the civilian roles.
Well, you see, military officers are Kenyans, for beginners. So we are not coming from... Mars. Yes, we are part of the society. We are here to serve this society. And as long as we are doing the work and discharging it diligently, there really ought to be no problem from where I'm seated, because we are Kenyans, just like any other Kenyans. And the law allows us to come and assist anyway.
How do you blow off that image or the tint that it's being used as an element of control?
It really isn't. It's about delivery from where I'm seated. It's about results. And this is what the president has been all about. If we have been listening to what he has told us over and over again, what do we want to achieve? How do we achieve this? What is the best route? Even you at an individual capacity, if you have a goal that you want to meet, then you decide, okay, I want to get to point Y. How do I get there?
The best route to take.
Our problem is getting rid or rationalizing our view of what the military is and the relationship of the military with civilians. But perhaps with the passage of time, we'll get used to the idea.
We'll get used to this.
And for all we know, some civilians may also be appointed to the military.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Kano, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having me.
It's good to have you on the show. It's good that you've been able to explain to us what the Asset Recovery Agency does, what it's doing, what its mandate is. And now, whenever we read or hear about the cases that you're taking before court, we'll understand this.
Asante sana. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Colonel Alice Mate is the director of the Asset Recovery Agency. We've been talking about the process, the mandate, and the job of the Asset Recovery Agency. Keep it right here for more conversations in the next hour. Today is Justice Thursday, and we're looking at all matters of justice. In the next hour, we talk to the Judiciary Ombudsman, the Honorable Kennedy Bidali. He'll be with us to explain to us. So, what does the Judiciary Ombudsman do? This and more coming up in the next hour. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. 2 more bodies have been recovered from River Yala, bringing the number of bodies retrieved from the river so far to 23. The discovery of more bodies comes just hours after a special forensic investigations team from the DCI headquarters was dispatched to River Yala and Yala Sub-County Hospital to assist with investigations. Some of the bodies retrieved earlier bore signs of torture, with residents believing that the unidentified bodies are of persons who may have been killed in different parts of the country before being dumped in the river. As the discovery of more bodies continues in River Yala, 4 families from Mombasa, Bomet, Kakamega and Kisumu counties whose relatives have gone missing flocked to Yala Sub-County Hospital mortuary to check if the unidentified bodies may be of their loved ones. Now, the Ministry of Health says there is a need to match the amount of money that the National Health Insurance Fund is paying for a patient and the amount of money that a hospital is charging for particular services. Speaking during the launch of Afya Njema program at Jumuiya Hospitals in Huruma, Nairobi, Healthiest Muthui Kagwe said his ministry, together with NHIF, private and faith-based hospitals, are in talks about charges on treatment for various diseases. According to the CS, the new plan will bring equality in access to healthcare services in the country. Abubakar Amana, a religious leader from Lamu, has been interrogated by the police officers from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission over alleged incitement. According to Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji, Amana uttered remarks believed to have partly led to a flare-up in skirmishes in the region. Amana surrendered to authorities in Mombasa 8 days after DPP Haji ordered that he be investigated for alleged incitement. The DPP claimed Amana was allegedly captured on a viral video referring to certain parts of Kenya belonging to a particular tribe, thereafter allegedly inciting voters on tribal basis before the 2022 elections. His lawyer Yusuf Abubakar, however, said the utterances were taken out of context. Now, Deputy President William Ruto is today taking his bottom-up economic agenda campaigns to Machakos County. The Deputy President will embark on his tour by holding a rally at Donyo Sabuk at around 10 a.m, after which he will proceed to Talo Market in Matungulu Sub-County at 11 a.m. Thereafter, he will head to Kangundo, where he will engage the constituents through noon, before holding stopovers at Kivani and Kakuyuni at 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. From there, the DP will visit Kathiani at 3 p.m, Mitaboni at 4 p.m, before wrapping up his itinerary in Joska along Kangundo Road at 5 p.m. Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga, who is seeking the country's top seat under Azimio La Umoja platform, will on the other hand take his vote-hunting mission to Migori County. Odinga is expected to pitch camp in Kuria district before staging a major rally at Kehancha Stadium for the rest of the day. Let's talk about COVID-19 and ask, how will the pandemic end? Nearly 2 years since it was officially declared by the World Health Organization, we are still no closer to knowing the answer. The highly transmissible Omicron variant has swept the globe since it was first detected in South Africa in November. But the fact that it is less likely to cause severe disease than previous coronavirus variants has led to heavy speculation over whether it might mark a turning point or a conclusion to the pandemic. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus poured cold water on that theory, saying this pandemic is nowhere near over. Omicron is continuing to infect the world at a startling speed, with more than 18 million cases reported last week alone, according to WHO. Newswire wants you to follow the protocols to the T, get vaccinated and protect yourself. Now, Kenya has recorded 39.7% increase in tourism earnings, which recovered to reach 146 billion shillings from 88 billion shillings a year earlier. The rise in revenue is attributed to the increase in the number of international tourist arrivals, which increased 53.3% to reach 870,465 compared to 567,848 registered in 2020. Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala hopes the easing of travel restrictions in most countries, as well as new tourist source markets such as Mexico, Israel and Iran, would help net Kenya 1 million international tourist arrivals this year. And the Taliban's acting prime minister asked the global community to grant legitimacy to Afghanistan's new government, insisting it has met all conditions required for the official recognition. Mohammed Hassan Ahund spoke at a conference in Kabul, where his interim administration convened to discuss massive economic upheavals facing the country since the Taliban seized power last August. The event was also attended by United Nations officials. No country has yet recognized the new government, which the Taliban officially refer to as the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Foreign governments are watching to see how the ultra-conservative group will govern the country this time around. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
All right, in the middle of traffic hour, and it's quite hard and heavy in a lot of areas in the city. Gong Road is quite packed, and we're looking at Lusaka Road, then feeding off towards Langata Road this morning. The Likoni interchange coming towards the southern bypass also looks quite packed, but getting off to the southern bypass shouldn't be an issue. Till you get to Langata Road. Langata Road, very messy all the way to the roundabout. That construction still continues there. It doesn't look too bad on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Just at the Pangani underpass there is where we will see some action. It's looking a lot better on Kiambu Road as well. But as you get past the DCI headquarters, out towards Muthui Square, that is still really busy. Ngara, that whole CBD area is quite packed this morning, and we're looking at traffic coming out of Western. So still traffic hour. Let's see what it looks like in a short while. Areas where you might be stuck, do let us know. Things that you do see this morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 on the 20th of January 2022. Thank you very much for tuning in to The Situation Room on Spice FM online, Spice FM KE, YouTube and Facebook. And for the next 1 hour, we are also live on KTN Home. We appreciate that you choose to listen to this show every weekday morning. Today is Thursday, hashtag Justice Thursday. CT has the day's proverb.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe. Directly translated into the English language, the envious eye goes everywhere.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe.
Kila pembe.
Hasidi will not miss a thing.
It will not. Because if it misses a thing,
then they have no content.
Yes, precisely. And Hasidi requires content.
Hasidi is basically, it thrives on content. Hasidi Nambea, same.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
What?
Nothing.
But at least you've understood what Hasidi means.
Yes.
That's good enough.
I'm good.
That's good enough.
One step at a time.
One thing per day.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's Justice Thursday, and let's talk about what's happening in the judiciary. We say we want to have this conversation so we have greater access to understanding justice and how best we can get justice. Joining us this morning is the Judiciary Ombudsman, the Honorable Kennedy Bidali. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show. Welcome to, we call that the hot seat. It's a very easy place for you to be, for you to relax, familiarize yourself with your surroundings. We'll be taking off shortly. And it'll be a very nice one. So, when you talk about ombudsman, we go back into, many people think about the ombudsman in government, the Commission on Administrative Justice, the one where, if you have a complaint, you go and they look at it and see, so which the government officer was involved and how do we make sure that you get your service delivered to you as you should be getting a service as a citizen or as a resident of the country. Is this the same thing for the judiciary? Or what is the Judiciary Ombudsman?
Thank you, Eric, for having me. The Commission on Administrative Justice is actually a creature of Parliament. Under Article 59, Kenyans allowed Parliament to legislate on having a public grievance redress mechanism, and Parliament did enact the CAJ Act, and that is the public ombudsman. The same act requires all public institutions to come up with a grievance redress mechanism. And in the judiciary, that's what is called the Judiciary Ombudsman's Office.
Mm-hmm.
So that is basically the history of and the role of the ombudsman.
So one ombudsman's office, really a mouthful, deals with the public. I have a problem. I was charged wrongly. I was jailed wrongly. And I don't like the way this process, I complain.
Mm-hmm.
Industries, government institutions have issues. Now, who must I have issues with in order to come to you?
Thank you. If you have issues with you started with charged wrongly, that has nothing to do with the judiciary.
Mm.
But if you have any issues touching on the way the courts have handled you, from the point of registration of a case.
Is that your phone? Someone heard you.
And they're calling.
And they're looking for you. Tumekuona kwa TV.
That's not mine.
Okay.
Yes, so if you have any complaint touching on the way the courts have handled you, right from the point of registration of a case to payment of cash bail, if you have you are unfortunately charged, to the point of having the case heard and a judgment delivered. Any of those processes, if you have any issue with those processes, then this is the office to come to.
So you've been taken before a judicial officer, magistrate or judge, and let's say you feel that you are not given even time. You are just, how do you plead? Sawa, wewe sasa utaenda kotini, utaenda jela. And you feel, I was not even explained to the process.
Yeah.
That's when I come to you. Or what kind of cases are you currently handling? What kind of grievances have been brought up before the Judiciary Ombudsman at present? Just for us to understand.
Yeah, probably I could just take you through the mandate of the Ombudsman. It's not an appellate court. If you have any grievance on the decision a court has made based on merits, if you have any grievance on discretion exercised by the court, the Constitution and various laws provide for a very elaborate process, the appellate process. That can be corrected. The only issues we deal with are administrative in nature. You have come to file a case before court, and these days we are fully automated, for instance, and you have sent your documents on the e-portal, and there is no feedback within 24 hours. That's administrative.
Okay.
You come to court, you've been told your file is not available. That's administrative. You have paid cash bill, the matter has been finalized. You now need to get a refund and it's taking too long. That's still administrative. You feel that the exercise of discretion was egregious, made in bad faith, then that becomes an issue of misconduct, and that's an administrative issue that the ombudsman can take up.
Okay, so are we safe to say that the ombudsman then is working for the public in judicial matters?
Precisely.
Okay, so how then has access been made easy or easier over time for any Kenyan to come in and say, I have this issue, I have the other?
Yes, of course, there's the physical access that's being dealt with by various directorates in the judiciary. So I want to talk about the administrative access, because access can be physical or otherwise. Administratively, accessing the courts could be there, and you have a grievance that you think needs to be addressed by the courts, but you don't even know how to start filing the case. You don't have the information on what needs to be done for you to appear before a judge or a magistrate. There are processes, administrative processes in between. Those processes we are automating now, and a lot of our courts have now gone digital in terms of filing. In Nairobi, specifically, you have to file through a platform that directly interacts with the courts. It's not always easy for each and every citizen. Those who practice in courts may find the process easier, but we get a lot of complaints about those who are unable to access those services. The same thing cascades across the country. In the counties, some of the courts are still receiving documents physically, and even then, there is a payment to be done. There could be delays. All those are administrative interventions that we do work on. Then, of course, there is the issue of corruption and integrity, and there are instances where that have been reported where the staff have not acted the way they're supposed to. Those cases are also reported to the ombudsman.
Actually, there was, remember the story in the news last year about a case in Nakuru where, it's alleged that somebody was pretending that they are a magistrate and they have then asked to be given something small. Yeah. So the complainant then would come to the office of the ombudsman, and then you take a step back and establish whether this person is actually a judicial officer or not.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not just the Nakuru case. There have been also incidents of court brokers in our corridors purporting to be judiciary staff. Of course, we are doing something about it just to make sure that the courts are cleaned from those elements. And by far and large, so far, we have been very successful. Yes.
There are also very many cases of where a matter has gone before court and an award has been given, especially when it comes to insurance claims. An award has been given, and then the person who was supposed to be the intended beneficiary starts complaining that, the lawyer has not sent the money. So does this come to you, or does it go to the LSK? Because the person who's just knows, Judge alisema nipewe 2 million.
Yeah.
Lawyer hanipatii 2 million.
Unfortunately, a lot of those come to us, and they are not supposed to. Unfortunately, a lot of times, we receive complaints that the courts have not given dates, that courts have not done this and that. But the moment we start processing the complaints, we realize actually there's a third party involved. In the event the court has made an award, like you suggest, and the money has not been paid out to the litigant, really, if the advocate didn't act professionally, then that's a matter for the LSK, disciplinary committee. However, if it is anything to do with the courts, the execution processes, the slow execution, then that's a matter within the judiciary. Yes, and if the payments have not been made despite the execution, then there are other authorities, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, the LSK, if the money is with the advocate, and so on. Unfortunately, maybe I'll take this opportunity just to clarify that we do receive a lot of those. We don't just sit on them. We have an partnership with the other agencies. So we send those complaints to those agencies for further action.
Do you follow up?
Really, we don't, because
you're the first point of contact with the complainant. And as far as they're concerned, I mean, they came to the Judiciary Ombudsman.
Really, we don't, because you remember in the beginning you talked about the Public Ombudsman, CAJ. It's like the parent. We work under that umbrella. And that really is the body that follows up on those complaints, just like they do follow up on the complaints they forward to the judiciary.
Okay. Something that has always puzzled me is the role and the mandate is powerful, it is clear. But then once you have accomplished, once you have seen this role to its logical conclusion, then what?
The rule or role? The role of the ombudsman?
Yes. I mean, apart from just investigating and trying, the end result of all your activities, what is it supposed to produce?
Yes, the end result is supposed to ensure access to justice. The end result is supposed to ensure that cases are heard expeditiously and determined in the manner provided. Actually, we have a performance contract for about 3 years, and that most cases ought to be determined within a year, but for the very complex cases, it's not practical. So the end result would be a public that has easy access to the courts, a public whose cases are fast-tracked, go through the system quickly, a public who is confident that if they file a matter in the judiciary in January 2022, that in February 2023, the matter will be determined. As I said, it's not currently very practical for that. There are measures being taken to ensure that all those cases are fast-tracked. Just the other day, you heard about the CJ talking about the issue of adjournment, because that's a major issue in the judiciary. It causes a lot of delay. So those are some of the areas we look at administratively to see how they can be minimized and ensure access to justice.
So if somebody has a complaint against a judicial officer, a magistrate or a judge, and they say, I mean, this judge has just been, there's some collusion that I suspect. Every time my matter is supposed to be before this court, it's adjourned, and I want to file a complaint against the judicial officer. What do you do with that? Do you now say that this is a matter that requires this judge to be investigated?
Well, of course, just like any inquiry, we'll look at the credibility of that complaint. If it touches on a judge, the Constitution is clear under Article 168. There are very elaborate processes on what needs to be done and the grounds under which a judge ought to be removed. The same Constitution provides that complaints and grievances shall be handled by the Judicial Service Commission. However, it opens the window to Parliament to legislate and delegate some of those functions. And Parliament has done that and delegated some of those functions, especially those touching on judicial officers and staff, to the Chief Justice as head of judiciary. So in the event you have a complaint against a judicial officer, the office will look at the credibility of that complaint just by, if it touches on the merits of a decision made. Remember, judicial officers have impunity. And it's not for those judicial officers, but actually it's for the public good that courts ought to have that independence to make decisions. And judicial officers cannot fear making decisions because they feel that there could be a complaint that leads to a disciplinary process. Right. So at the very first instance, we look at the credibility of that complaint. If it touches on the merits of a case, if it touches on the exercise of judicial discretion, we don't even have ask the judicial officers to respond. We just deal with it right there.
And how do you deal with it?
We close the complaint. We close the complaint. We advise you about the options available to you. If it's the exercise of judicial discretion, we inform you about the appellate processes. You can move to a higher court. to the High Court. And if you're still aggrieved, you can still move to the Court of Appeal.
What about in cases that, and there have been public cases where somebody even has, recordings, video, audio recordings of a judicial officer engaging in corruption, asking for a bribe. Now, do I bring those to you, or who do I take such complaints to? Because I'm feeling that I'm being denied access to justice by this judicial officer.
Yes, actually, I was coming to that second bit. The first bit is just to look at the complaint, see if it is credible or not. The second bit is if it is credible, what happens? So if it is credible, as is the case you're describing, then a process will be followed. There will be an inquiry. A lot of times, the judicial officer will be asked to respond to those allegations. If they require further probe, that will be done. Usually it involves looking through the entire court file, because remember, every case has a court file. And if we find that there is evidence that amounts to a misconduct, then a report is made to the Chief Justice. And the Chief Justice will assess the report, will scrutinize it, and makes a determination whether to institute disciplinary proceedings or not.
Now, just take us through step by step here, Honorable Bidali. So someone has come to complain, and they're saying that I was asked for a bribe by a court clerk and the magistrate, or in fact, let's deal with the judge. Court clerk and judge. And here I have the evidence, and I've brought it before the ombudsman. So what does the ombudsman do then from that point on, step by step?
Yeah, so those will be two processes.
Yes.
Because remember I told you about the judge and Article 168 and the process. Maybe I'll just mention briefly on if it touches on a judge.
Yes.
That is a matter for the Judicial Service Commission. The removal proceedings are described in the Constitution and the grounds for removal. So the Commission has its own internal procedures which they will conduct, and they involve a hearing, taking down statements and hearing witnesses and making a determination, which, as you know, is then forwarded to the President, who constitutes a tribunal, which tribunal determines suitability of the judge to continue serving or not. So that process really, the Ombudsman doesn't have a lot to do with it. If the complaint comes to the Ombudsman and it touches on a judge, usually it will be forwarded to the Chief Justice for her directions. We may do the preliminaries, look into the files and do a preliminary report, but that matter is handled by the Judicial Service Commission. On the other hand, in the same complaint, you've talked about this court assistant or court clerk.
Yes.
That falls within the mandate of the Ombudsman. A complaint will be investigated. The videos you talk about will be looked into. If they are credible, we have an internal process. They involve a show cause letter. Actually, it's a process that leads to removal.
Okay.
And really, the judiciary has been very quick to act on those. I must say that we have very few pending cases on removal. If and when they are reported, the action is pronto, very quick.
It's very quick.
Yeah.
Let's go into some further questions and discussion on this. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, live on KTN Home, SpiceFM, and streaming online on YouTube and Facebook. With our guest today, Justice Thursday, is the Honorable Kennedy Bidali. He is the Judiciary Ombudsman, and we want to understand the job of the Judiciary Ombudsman, what they do, what they don't do, and how fast they're supposed to do their work. Keep it right here. We'll be back shortly. It's 29 minutes after 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA,
You mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the inmates says, hata wewe kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. SpiceFM.
All right, the sun is out in Nairobi at 18, highs of 25 and lows of 15 today. It's clear at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 14. 13 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's currently 14. We'll see highs of 26 today. Eldoret is cloudy at 14, a chance of rain, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Malindi is partly sunny at 28, highs of 31 and lows of 26. While it's clear in Kisumu at 20, it'll go to highs of 27. 28 will be the high recognized in Kakamega today. It's mostly sunny currently at 21. Sunny conditions in Kampala at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 17. The rains abated in Dar es Salaam. Partly sunny conditions now, highs of 32 and lows of 26. It's sunny in Joburg at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 13. And Lagos, still foggy in the city, 25, highs of 33 and lows of 22. And it's raining in Kinshasa at 23. We'll see highs of 31 back down to lows of 23.
Spice FM, Malindi.
All right, so we're still looking at quite a bit of it coming into the city, coming off a thicker superhighway. That continues. And coming off Jogo Road, as we had seen previously, it continues as well. All right, what do we see coming off of Mombasa Road, going towards North Airport Road? Very sticky in all directions. Cabanas, then towards General Motors. We're looking at North Airport Road. That is an absolute mess. It's been that way for some time. The Eastern Bypass taking a bit of a hit, but not too terrible. Juja Road, as we go looking on east, past industrial area, that's still tight. Langata Road, quite a lot of traffic then going towards the roundabout. Raila Odinga Way is free and clear, however, that's an option to use coming off of Gong Road. Westlands and that whole area still continues to be quite tight into the CBD. Keep looking at things this morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
27 minutes to 9. The conversation continues on Spice FM, KTN Home and online. Justice Thursday. With you in the studio is CT Muga, Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, and our guest is the Honorable Kennedy Bidali, the Judiciary Ombudsman.
You know, when these rules are unpacked and you go through the process, I actually ask myself then, why is it that we still have issues with the judiciary? Is it because whatever we are told we refuse to understand? Or is it that the judiciary doesn't take enough time to explain itself to the public so that the public actually understands what it is that they are doing and how it is that they're going about it? One of the issues that often comes up in the public domain are delayed cases. Someone says, we've had judges, we've had judicial officers come here to explain what they do and the backlog, but there are cases that, should we say, go beyond the issues of backlog. You hear someone has had a case, it's been postponed, time, and years go by. Now, the unfortunate thing about time, it has a transformative capacity. With the capacity of time, what that case began as and what it will be 3 years down the line may be something quite different. Now, how does the Office of the Ombudsman deal with an issue such as this? Because one hears of it fairly often.
Yes, it's actually a major issue. Delays that result in backlog forms the bulk of the complaints that we receive. It's actually the bulk. Delays in initiating cases, delays in hearing cases, delays in determining cases, basically writing judgments. And this, the major cause is adjournment. And if you break down adjournments, the major cause are other players within the justice sector. If you have a criminal case before court, and there needs to be the police file prepared, there needs to be the DPP ready with his witnesses, and then the court needs to be ready to hear you. So if any of those is not prepared, that leads to an adjournment. Of course, it's something, adjournments is something that we are trying to eliminate, but you cannot eliminate it completely. Now, it's not practical. For instance, sometimes there are very good reasons for adjourning. If it's a criminal case, the DPP may not have his witnesses. You're facing a murder trial or another serious offense, a robbery with violence, and the complainant could not make it to court. So if the court puts its foot down and says, we are not adjourning, come what may, it will result in an injustice. So unfortunately, that's one of the key reasons. It's not just the DPP that delays, it's sometimes the courts. We have instances where we have 16% of the time, the reasons for adjournment caused by the court itself.
It's interesting that you say that because yesterday we saw, coming from the office of the CJ, that she was insisting that these adjournments that we've seen so many of should actually cease, at least be reduced significantly, because it was causing an injustice on one side. But here we are saying that if you say that adjournments cannot take place for certain reasons, that in itself is also causing an injustice. So how do you balance the two? That you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because injustice then is the thing that comes in. And here we are trying to reduce the bulk of these cases that come to your desk, and at the same time reduce the backlog that clearly is the bane of the judicial experience.
Yes, that's the delicate balance. And we have organizations that have come in. The Chief Justice chairs the NCAJ, brings all players together. And if we feel that one of the players is causing a delay, they're able to discuss in that forum and agree. We have an issue with witnesses coming to court. What can be done about it to ensure that courts, the DPP always have their witnesses ready? Are the police bonding the witnesses? Because you see, the DPP prosecutes, but it's the police that bonds the witnesses. So if the chain breaks in any of those, it will lead to a delay. So I think that is usually discussed under the umbrella of NCAJ. But from the courts, as ombudsman, we do follow up. We know we have the daily court returns. And those are mined and broken down into which court is adjourning, how many times in a year, actually in a quarter, what are the reasons. And then administratively, we look at those reasons. If, for instance, the adjournments are being caused because of lack of physical space, then we escalate the matter to the responsible directorate that ensures that that is facilitated. In some instances, adjournments are caused because of unavailability of the courts or the judicial officers. There are now there are procedures now. Courts don't just go on training or don't just take leave. There is a roster at the beginning of the financial year that is adhered to. And if it's a training, we have an annual training plan that's adhered to. This is supposed to ensure that the cases that are confirmed for hearing are actually heard. And in the event they are not heard, then they ought to be fast-tracked and given the next available hearing date. So it's a delicate balance, especially when it comes to criminal cases, where there are other players involved and where the courts strive to do justice. A lot of times you find that adjournment is the best way to do justice. Yes.
Does the Office of the Ombudsman have sufficient powers within its mandate to commence an investigation once you see that there's a suspicious trend that's developing within certain offices, within certain cases, within certain judges or magistrates, or within certain areas, and you notice there could be some sense of corruption creeping in, collusion that leads into these adjournments. This time it was a witness who was not available. Next time it was a judicial officer who was not available. The other time it was the police who said our file or our vehicle broke down. So are you able to investigate and see that there's something untoward happening here, and then you take action?
Yes, we are. We do have all returns from all courts across the country. And on every given evening, we know which court handled how many matters. We know which court delivered how many merit-based decisions and non-merit-based decisions. We know which court cleared how many cases. On any single day, a report is forwarded to headquarters. Usually we have a directorate of DPOP which mines the report and makes it easier for us to understand and to get the trends. So it is possible, actually, from these returns, to tell which courts are adjourning matters the most, which courts are taking the longest to begin hearing a case, and which courts are taking the longest to deliver judgments. So those are the sort of trends. There are many other parameters that can be used. So those are the sort of trends that can be analyzed, and then you can come up with, and especially when you look into the reasons. If it is adjournments, you look into the reasons. If it is delayed judgments, you can look into the reasons for the delay. And if there is an element of corruption or any integrity issues arise, it is easy to map it out and deal with it.
Now that you're here, Honorable Bidali, maybe you can just share with us. So which courts are these that suffer the most in terms of adjournments or delays in commencement of cases, and why?
We did give a State of Judiciary address, I think, some time back. And if you look into that report, you'll actually find a lot of details on all case returns, actually, which actually shows you the percentages and the reasons that cases have been adjourned. I don't have the entire statistics now. We have over 120 courts. But what I remember offhand is that, for instance, in Milimani, you'll find that about 17% of the time the courts adjourn is because of the court itself. And if the percentage changes slightly, if you go to Mombasa, goes down to about 8%. So if you analyze that statistic and that data, you can actually come up with those trends and know exactly why the cases are being adjourned. You asked about the reasons. A lot of times, in civil cases, this vary with the cases. In civil cases, the reasons are unavailability or unpreparedness of the parties to the case. That is the bulk. That is the major reason why civil cases are adjourned. In criminal cases, from our returns, the main reason is unavailability of witnesses across the country.
Okay. I'm interested in the civil cases. How long are you allowed to be unprepared?
In civil cases, there's an elaborate procedure in there, but maybe just to try and answer your question is I'll make reference to a provision of the law whereby if you are inactive for a certain period, your case will be dismissed without further reference to you.
Or it will be decided on without reference to you?
Well, it cannot be decided, it will just be dismissed.
Let's
Is
say,
that
for
not an
instance,
injustice in itself?
Aha.
Yet again.
Yes.
Considering the parties that are now involved in
I
this.
mean, why don't I give you a scenario? Okay. Eric and I have a business. Okay. I've gone to complain that Eric has been leaking information to the media about what he considers to be misdeeds about me. Okay. And I have complained because what he leaks now interferes with other businesses that I have that have nothing to do with him. Okay. Now, so I've brought this case before the ombudsman because this case just keeps delaying because his lawyer keeps saying they haven't quite gotten all the information they want. There's an adjournment. Eric has a flu that has lasted, and it lasts specifically on the days that he's supposed to be in court. Okay. And this thing has gone on for a year, and we're getting on to the second year.
Eric hasn't turned up.
He hasn't, and there's one reason. There's an adjournment, and the harm that has been done to me. Still, it's not as though it's static. It actually escalates. So, when you have such delays, this really is my question. Okay, an office such as yours, your office to be specific. How do we resolve such a thing? That's why I asked the question, how long is this person allowed to keep delaying this thing?
Yeah, actually, that is, I think that could be the reasons behind the recent policy directions by the Chief Justice. This is what the office does. It mines and looks at the trends. And once we establish that adjournments are creating a serious backlog within the courts, that report is presented to the Chief Justice. And that's where you're seeing these policy directions on adjournments, essentially saying that you cannot just adjourn on whimsical excuse. It has to be the exception. I think those are the directions that have come out. As I said earlier, it's very hard to come up with a very hard and fast rule and say no adjournments, no matter the reason.
That I understand completely. But if the case that has been brought before the judicial system is clear and is understood, this is what it's about. Surely the parameters that are required to be fulfilled before the case can proceed also ought to be clear. So the adjournment is also clear and is understood within that particular ambit. But again, for how long?
And there's an injustice that is still ongoing.
Yes.
Basically, City, you'd like that this matter is determined without my presence.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't present yourself, then stay. But it doesn't stop the court
from ruling in your favor.
Yes,
for example.
precisely.
That's precisely the way it should be.
Yes.
And actually, that's why we have performance contracts right now. I talked about the periods allowed for determination. That's why we have timelines. There's a timeline if you file an injunction. There's a timeline when the decision ought to be given. If a matter is certified urgent, there is a timeline. If a matter is confirmed for hearing, there is a timeline when it ought to be determined. And this is part of what we do as an ombudsman. Follow up on the returns, look for those trends. If it is persistent, of course, those are the matters that are escalated to the Chief Justice.
Does the Ombudsman Office have branches across the country in all court stations?
Actually, that's the Ombudsman is just about to expand to all court stations. Currently, we sit in Nairobi at the Supreme Court building, but there is a process where each and every station will nominate an integrity and assurance officer. And part of their role will be to monitor and report on any corruption and integrity issues and whatever activities to fight the vice are being done at every station. So, and they will be reporting back to headquarters. So in the next couple of weeks, we will be having representative, not per se the ombudsman, but they will be called the integrity and assurance officers across the country.
Okay. In terms of volume, because of cases that you have that have presented themselves to you over a period of time, are you inundated with cases? Because again, backlog of cases has been one thing that the judiciary is really trying to battle, and 800,000 high numbers that we are looking at. Yeah. Are you also suffering from that challenge of the cases that come to you?
Fortunately, no. For now, we handled Last year, about 1,800 cases. Quite a handful, but manageable. And with this rollout to the rest of the country, it's going to be, we are going to be able to resolve matters a lot faster than we have been in the past.
And do you want more cases? It sounds like a rudimentary question, but as as this office was created, is it encouraging more and more Kenyans, should you have an issue, no matter what it is, encouraging people to bring those cases forward? Or would you rather that, just let it, morph into the system? Or are you at an encouraging place where you're saying, bring these issues forward no matter what they are? That is why we are here.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days as you visit, if you have the misfortune or fortune of visiting the courts, you will notice a very big blue poster for the Ombudsman, complete with our contacts, complete with how you can reach us easily. We prefer email. But actually, we are strategically placed at the areas where we feel are most problematic, at the registries and in the courts. And the reason is that we want you to come to us if you face any administrative difficulty. We don't want you to come physically if you can't, but you can reach us through email, you can reach us on phone, and we will be able to process the issues even when you are at the counties. Yes.
In the court of public opinion, there have been accusations that the judiciary also tends to protect itself when there are allegations of corruption and malpractice. And those ones keep cropping up. So with that in mind, is why I want to ask the question, who appoints the Ombudsman? Who does the Ombudsman report to? And is there any sense of independence in the work of the Ombudsman?
Yes. Maybe let me start with the second part of your question. The Ombudsman is appointed by the Chief Justice. The Ombudsman reports to the Chief Justice. Those are the reporting lines. The office has its clear mandates and present its reports to the Chief Justice. About the judiciary protecting its own, yes, I've seen one or two articles about it, but I just wanted to maybe give you a history. If you look at all arms of government, if you do a comparative analysis and look at the actions the judiciary has taken, for instance, against its top officers, comparatively with other arms over the past 10 years, I think the judiciary by far has taken more action against its own officers than the other arms. We have had the commission dealing with employees from the highest court, from the Deputy Chief Justice all the way down to a court assistant or a support staff. And there are very many cases. What you read about in the media is just a tip of the iceberg. They're the so-called high-profile cases, but there are dozens more. So I really don't think there's any one time the judiciary seems to protect itself. Probably you are saying that in reference to court decisions. As I said, those are merit-based, and they have to go through the appellate processes.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the BBI, there were proposals of, I don't know whether it's watering down or enhancing the office of the Ombudsman, in that the BBI was proposing that the Ombudsman is, first of all, appointed directly by the chief executive of the country, and this is the president, and they sit there and they're representing public interests in an institution then that the Ombudsman is not a part of, but working with. Now, how you've been, as Honorable Kennedy Bilali, you've been the Ombudsman for a number of years. You've worked in this office for long. You understand the court system and the judiciary. Are some of these proposals merited on saying, let's actually have an Ombudsman who is somebody who's independent, who directly represents the people?
Eric, you want to put us in trouble. It's going on in the Supreme Court this week. There is the sub judice rule that basically just prevents us from discussing any matter substantially in issue, and that one is
one of them
in the BBI. But let me talk about the Judiciary Ombudsman, because that's not part
That's
of
not-
that.
that's not in question.
Yeah. You see, if you look at the mode of appointment and the reporting lines, they are significantly and fundamentally different from what is proposed. The appointment is by the Chief Justice. The reporting lines are by the Chief Justice, are through the Chief Justice. This is fundamentally different. I think that's the most I think I can go to without touching on the matter.
Now, I'm
that
looking
is
at it.
pending.
Let's compare, for example, the ombudsman, the public ombudsman. Public ombudsman, there's a panel that recruits the public ombudsman, and therefore that means that there is no, collusion. It's not, the public ombudsman is not a direct appointee of the president. The public ombudsman is not a direct appointee of some cabinet secretary. But there's some public recruitment process that happens. Would that be a good thing when it comes to the judiciary ombudsman?
You see, the public
to increase the independence, not just the independence, but the confidence of the people who are coming to complain before the judiciary ombudsman, that this person will not, if I'm coming to complain about the Chief Justice, this person will still deal with this matter.
If you're complaining about the Chief Justice or any judge of the High Court, there is a very clear mechanism under Article 168. It's not to the judiciary. It has to go to the commission, which is independent, and there are very clear guidelines on how the commissioners are appointed and so on. But if you do a comparative analysis with the CAJ, for instance, you see their appointments are governed by law. There is an act of parliament that actually governs how the commissioners or the board is appointed by the public ombudsman. In the judiciary, the situation is different. Chief Justice is head of the judiciary under the Constitution. Her duties, if you look at her duties and her roles, they require support from various units. And that's why there's a reorganization. And that's why there are various units appointed by the Chief Justice to support her in executing her mandate. So there is no board, there is no interview. This is one of the 5 or 6 units within the office of the Chief Justice. So it's not governed by statute, unlike the CAJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was seeking your opinion. I'll come back to that. But let's first say goodbye to the KTN home audience who've been watching us since the top of the hour. The conversations continue on Spice FM and on online, Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter. It's 3 minutes to 9.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refused to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani Maternity Hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
It is 1.5 minutes to the top of the
The
hour.
Situation Room.
With
Kenya's
Ombudsman, the Honorable Kennedy Bidali. So, but Ombudsman, you say that if we went to any court station, we'll find some blue notices that encourage anyone who feels that they are aggrieved by the process of court to reach out to you. So how do we do that?
We have a complaints management system that interacts very easily with emails. So actually we encourage a lot of court users to send us an email at servicedesk@judiciary.go.ke. That interfaces with our grievance redress system. We are able to see it immediately and forward it to relevant stations for action.
So service desk?
Service desk at judiciary.go.ke.
That's an easy one, actually. Service desk at judiciary.go.ke.
Yes, and that's just one way. Actually, if you have if you are unable to access us on email, you can write to us at Judiciary Ombudsman's Office, Supreme Court Building, or you can walk into room number 10.
In the Supreme Court
building?
building?
In the Supreme Court building.
10, not Downing Street. 10. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Eric.
Asante.
Yeah.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver, mode of transport, and negotiate your fare to your destination for a safe, comfortable, and affordable trip only with InDriver.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Teachers' unions have reintroduced their demands to have their salaries reviewed. Kupet now says that it has given the Teacher Service Commission a 21-day deadline to begin talks on the matter. Kupet Secretary General Akello Misori argues that some public officials have had their salaries increased while teachers have been left out. Kupet is pushing for an increase of between 30% and 70% for their members. If their demands are met, Missouri says the lowest paid teacher will get 59,425 from 34,958 shillings. Those that will get the highest pay will take home 153,715 shillings from 118,242 shillings.
The government reviewed the salaries and allowances of the employees of the Judicial Service Commission, the Parliamentary Service Commission, and county government, who are already among the highest paid cadres in public service. In the meantime, teachers who are among the lowest paid public servants have slid into poverty due to sharp inflation over the last 2 years. The excuse of COVID-19 should no longer be used to deny teachers their deserved salary reviews.
This as the Kenya National Union of Teachers wants TSC to sign the 2021-2023 collective bargaining agreement. NAT Secretary General Colin Soyu says talks have already begun, though he has not said whether they will push for new demands on wage increase.
So we have started and we want to push the employer so that we can have something on the table for our teachers. It is known to all of you that Treasury has already appropriated funds to boost Teacher Service Commission kitty for the same purpose.
2 more bodies are being recovered from River Yala, bringing the number of bodies retrieved from the river so far, according to police, to 23. These, as area locals say, the numbers are above 30. The discovery of more bodies comes just hours after a special forensic investigations team from the DCI headquarters was dispatched to River Yala and Yala sub-county hospitals to assist with investigations. Some of the bodies retrieved earlier bore signs of torture, with residents believing that the unidentified bodies are of persons who may have been killed in different parts of the country before being dumped in the river. As the discovery of more bodies continue in River Yala, for families from Mombasa, Bomet, Kakamega and Kisumu counties whose relatives have gone missing flocked to Yala sub-county hospital mortuary to check if the unidentified bodies may be of their loved ones. Now, the Ministry of Health says there is need to match the amount of money that the National Health Insurance Fund is paying for a patient and the amount of money that a hospital is charging for particular services. Speaking during the launch of Afya Njema program at Jumuiya hospitals in Huruma, Nairobi, Health System Muthui Kagwe said his ministry, together with NHIF, private and faith-based hospitals, are in talks about charges on treatment for various diseases. According to the CS, the new plan will bring equality in access to healthcare services in the country. To matters politics, and Deputy President William Ruto is today taking his bottom-up economic model campaigns to Machakos County. The Deputy President will embark on his tour by holding a rally at Donyo Sabuk at around 10 a.m, after which he will proceed to Talo Market in Matungulu Sub-County at 11 a.m. Thereafter, he will head to Kangundo, where he will engage with the constituents through noon, before holding stopovers at Kivani and Kakuyuni at 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. respectively. From there, the DP will visit Kathiani at 3 p.m., Mitaboni at 4 p.m. before wrapping up his itinerary in Joskal along Kangundu Road at 5 p.m. Meanwhile, ODM party leader Raila Odinga, who is seeking the country's top seat under Azimio La Umoja platform, will, on the other hand, take his vote-hunting mission to Migori County. Odinga is expected to pitch camp in Kuria district before staging a major rally at Kehancha Stadium for the rest of the day. Now, it is the fourth day since the second phase of voter registration began across the country, yet in some stations in Lamu West, not a single person has been registered. Mikinduni, Nyatha, Juhudi, Harvest, Witu, Holy Angels, Hindi and Poromoko continue to register little activity, which has been worsened by the increased cases of insecurity that have been reported in the area in the recent days. These, they say, so many lose their ID cards, which is needed for one to be registered as a voter. Lamu IEBC official Mohammed Adan says that despite the registration materials being distributed on time, no one has come forward to be registered in the said areas. He says that the country may not be able to hit the set target due to the prevailing condition. This, as we continue to urge you to go get registered as a voter, because remember, your vote is your voice. And Abubakar Amana, a religious leader from Lamu West, has been interrogated by the police and officers from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission of alleged incitement. According to Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji, Amana uttered remarks believed to have partly led to a flare-up of skirmishes in the region. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Download the InDriver app from the App Store or Google Play Store to enjoy a safe, comfortable, and affordable ride around Nairobi.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so we're seeing quite a lot of it on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're going out towards the city. Inbound traffic picking up all the way through and through, especially around Imaradaima. Not as bad as it was yesterday, so that's good. We're looking at the North Airport Road, also picking up quite a lot of the slack coming off of Mombasa Road. Industrial area continues to be a thing. We're looking at Ngong Road, Uhuru Highway going out towards Westland, in and outbound traffic. Kamkunji, Landis Road, not too bad today. Jogo Road still continues. Westlands, that entire area, Jampaks, Parklands, coming off Wangari Maathai Way, that is looking quite sticky. The Thika Superhighway, we've not been able to get rid of that traffic that's approaching the Pangani underpass. Kiambu Road is doing a lot better, however, but then getting into the city, Pangani, Ngara, coming off Juja Road, some traffic there. We'll be out of traffic hours soon. We'll see what the roads look like without much in terms of vehicles. Hang tight, guys. Let's see what it looks like in a short while. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can talk to us. Text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 minutes after 9, and we thank you very much for keeping it locked and tuned on Spice FM around the country: Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, and Malindi. We get into the fourth hour of the show this morning, and CT has the proverb.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe.
Meaning it moves from this side to that side. And you see, there's something in Kiswahili, there's a word in Kiswahili, udako. Okay? Somebody who is intent on spreading malice and spreading rumors has to have content. In the absence of that,
then
yes, and envy is a really good catalyst, because it then spurs on that particular aspect beautifully.
So the currency of this person, what are we calling him again?
Which one?
Oh, Hasidi.
Hasidi, it's content.
The currency of Hasidi is umbea.
Yes.
Mushene.
Yes, and it can't work without content. Yes.
Mushene is content.
Yes. You need to hear this is what happened here. This is what somebody allegedly did. You need to, and then you give it the twist that suits your purpose.
Okay. So the story that has come out in the last couple of days about the deaths and the bodies that appear on the river are quite shocking.
They are actually bizarre.
And the thing is, even after it has been reported, people go to Yala River yesterday and they discover 2 more bodies. And the news is that, in the last couple of months, 21 bodies have been retrieved from the river in a span of 3 months, according to this one report by the Nation. The police sharply differed with hospital on the number of bodies that have been retrieved from the river. In a statement yesterday, the National Police Service said only 19 bodies have been retrieved from this river in the last 2 years. But hospital figures, those in the mortuary, say the mortuary has 21 bodies retrieved from this river in the last 3 months. The mortuary has bodies. The mortuary has bodies that have been brought to it. And of course, when there's a body such as this, the mortuary will not just accept that body. There has to be an accompanying police report.
Yes.
They say we have 21 bodies that have come here in the last 3 months. The police are saying we have taken only 19 bodies in the last 2 years. That's some conflicting information, and you wonder, so what do you mean? Those that have brought bodies to the mortuary say 19 in 2 years. Those that have received the bodies say 21 bodies in 3 months.
Giving the impression that there are many more than 21 over the last
12
months, right? Yes.
So you ask yourself, Medical Superintendent Bruno Okoh said the bodies of 20 males and 1 female had been found. Yesterday, the police service dispatched a special forensic investigations team to Yala to speed up the identification of the bodies. In a statement, police spokesperson Bruno Shioso said despite repeated appeals to the public, no one has come forward to claim the bodies. Dr. Okoh says families have been visiting the facility, but they were being referred to the Yala police station. Nicholas Okero, a local diver who's been helping police to retrieve the bodies, claims that he has helped recover 31 bodies over the past 6 months. He told the Nation that some bodies are packed neatly in sacks, which are tightly sewn before they are dumped in the river. The special crimes team dispatched from Nairobi comes a few months after another team from the DCI was appointed and tasked with investigating the incidences. Siaya County Police Commander Michael Mushiri said police will establish a permanent checkpoint in the Yala Bridge to curb further incidences. What's happening here?
I think there are very many points here that are being... So what you'll do is... and I think what's being overlooked here is that crimes are being committed, people are being killed, and they're dumping their bodies in the river. So now what you say is that you're going to put up a post near the river to make sure that they don't dump it there. Well, guess what? If they're not going to dump it there, they're going to find somewhere else where they're going to start dumping
The
these
river
bodies.
does not start at the bridge.
The river
So you've missed the point.
A river is not a lake.
I'm telling you. So the point has been missed completely. And what we're trying to say here is that people are being killed, crimes are being committed, Kenyans are going missing, and nothing is being done about it. That's the point. But what are we saying here? Circumvent all of that and we'll say, all right, let's put something here so that you won't dump the body. As though there's a downstream, upstream.
You know, the role that River Yala plays in this entire saga is that it is helping us highlight just the number of people who have died and have had their bodies dumped in it.
Exactly.
That is what the river is doing. And it probably opens our mind to the possibility that bodies are being dumped in other water sources.
Which they are.
Yes. But it also points to something. The something is a question that is in my mind. Why River Yala? It's a big river, by the way. So maybe that helps. It's a fast-moving river.
That's it. That's it. Right there. Because chances are that, or in the minds of those who are dumping, that it will carry
to the
the
lake.
bodies to the lake. And after that, they will not be able to retrieve them.
Yep.
Unfortunately, at least for these 21, that has not been the case. So the question is, how many more then were successful in their mission? Which is what we are not focusing on right now. It's not the only body, by the way, that's used for this in the country. There are many. We've been told Nyandarua, Athi River, here in Kitengela, another river body, I can't remember the name of it. But there are a number of them that have already, we've been told that this is happening, right? Why put them there? Because obviously it's an escape route. Get rid of it. Get rid of the evidence, dump it and go. Likelihood of anybody finding it after it has been carried, tributary-wise, is slim. Or so they would have thought.
But also, given what the water will do to the body, even when the body is discovered, there's an attempt that we heard of. Fingers have been burnt off with acid.
Sure.
Fingers have been chopped off. Yes, but those who dump the bodies in the river don't really seem to care. Not that much. If it goes to the lake, good. If it doesn't matter. Because the real problem is in the bodies being identified. Because once the body is identified, then you can trace it back.
Yes.
This is so and so. There was a complaint. This person disappeared. Under what circumstances? Okay. Who are the people? You then begin to construct a story that probably led to this person's abduction and eventual death.
Who they were seen last with.
Yes.
Where they were. You will be able to do all of that. But then now with this dumping, hopefully in the minds of those who've done it, is that you break the chain for that particular trail.
Yes.
By putting them in a body of water.
Yes.
Because we know that having been submerged for some time, then the integrity of the body changes. And it will then be difficult for you to identify.
It becomes very difficult.
Very difficult.
Yes.
But what bothers me more beyond all of this is that the numbers of bodies that have been presented are known. We probably have a situation whereby more have been, but yet that information is not being made public. Beyond that, preliminary investigations have been done as to what has actually happened to these bodies, which in some cases, they have then become criminal. It's not a case that somebody was walking by the lake or walking by the river and tripped and fell and drowned because of lack of knowledge of swimming. That's not what we're talking about here. Because the integrity of the bodies has been altered in very many cases. Okay. What then is being done about? Police are saying, we're waiting for people to come and claim. Others are saying, oh yeah, we
Despite
received...
repeated appeals.
Seriously speaking.
And do you know why this particular area seems to be the spot where the bodies are found? It's because it's the one part of the river where there are rocks.
Where the water slows down.
It has to slow down. And rocks are a hindrance. You see, it's a hindrance to the water, but the water will flow over it and go. The body doesn't have the same qualities. So the body gets stuck. It becomes stationary when it gets to those rocks. And even then, remember, you have divers who've been retrieving bodies that have somehow sunk. But this particular spot, it has a quality that enables the bodies to sort of like linger. Now, that, and it is now known. You see, prior to this being a spot where many bodies have been found, I'm sure even in the seasons when the river gets flooded or its depth is greater, there are bodies that have probably gone through and have gone to the lake as intended. The question that lingers is this. What is it about the need to have these bodies disappear completely? What is it?
Evading justice, bottom line.
But that's it.
Bottom line is evading justice. You see, today, City, if you committed a murder and the body was found and the murder weapon was found, then there is, going to be some linkage, some history. The last time you spoke, the phone signals indicate that you were together. All those things, plus DNA maybe, all those things are likely to pin you. So what do?
You disappear the person.
Disappear the body.
Faster.
It remains a missing person case. It is not a murder investigation.
And what are you hearing police saying right now? What are you hearing them saying? We've been waiting for people to tell us that their person is missing. And now if nobody can come and claim, what do? It has to remain at the mortuary.
No, what they do after a while is they bury them in mass
There you go.
graves.
It remains at the mortuary after some time. What does the mortuary tell you? Mortuary will say, look, we've been holding for X minute. We then are mandated to do what? Bury, dispose of. It remains and closes as a missing persons case.
But you know something, we do have the capacity to have DNA testing in this country.
Of course.
Yes.
Now, when one talks about missing persons, it usually means it has been reported.
Yes.
By somebody.
Yes.
Most likely family.
Otherwise, they're not missing.
Yes.
Okay. So if you are missing, now, whose duty is it to match or to try and figure out?
It's an investigating agency.
Investigating agency, which is the police.
It's as clear as day. Look, somebody is missing. Most likely, their family member will go to a police station and say, our brother, our sister, our mother, so-and-so is missing. All right? It will be entered into police record somewhere.
It is in the records.
A file is opened somewhere.
Yes.
So let's say, look at the cases, for example. Somebody says a person went missing in Bomet. So there's a file somewhere in Bomet that shows that somebody was reported missing. And then bodies are discovered. Again, even these divers, when they recover a body, the next thing that happens is police are informed a body has been recovered in Yala. Police come, police pick up the body, police take the body to the mortuary. The mortuary will accept a body of this nature when there is a police report. Even in cases, and you've heard many times, where in cases where somebody died at home and you're trying to take the body to mortuary will tell you,
where is your...
If they have not come from a hospital and we have accompanying documentation, they died at home, police.
Police have to be the ones to come and get.
Police. So there's no way the mortuary will take bodies from Yala if there's no police. So police know body, mortuary, Yala. Police know, and police is one unit. Police know missing person, Bomet, Mombasa, Nairobi, Nyeri, wherever. And they have all these bodies that have been recovered. Police have a job, and it's very clear for them to see, are these missing people part of the people that we are looking for? Because that's the job that we have. Now, the other thing that they say is, we have just made, desperate appeals for people to try and come and identify. People go looking for their kin when kin are missing to mortuaries. Harrowing an experience as it is. The first thing that people do is go look hospitals, go look mortuaries. Go look hospitals, go look mortuaries. Even as they report to the police, they say we have gone to mortuary, hospital, police station, we haven't found the person. So you can't say that the kin have been called by the police.
And then they refuse to
just
come.
go to Yala and see there's a body there. And they said,
no, thanks.
nah, we are not going to a mortuary. No. It's unlikely. So there's a breakdown somewhere here, and that needs to be exposed and discussed.
And sure, the breakdown or the sharing of responsibility, then look, what it then points to is that there is something fishy going on here. Either those who are responsible for making sure that the process is clear have had their hands in the proverbial cookie jar, in this case, into some criminal activity, knowing very well who these individuals may be. Or look at what we were discussing yesterday with the independent medical legal unit. In terms of those, just look at those numbers. Those 221 abductions that happened in 12 months between January and December 2021. Of the highest alleged perpetrators, if you're looking at the scale, it goes off the charts for the police. That from the information that they've been able to find, that those who have either been disappeared or those who have been tortured or those who have then turned up dead as a result of extrajudicial killings, the alleged perpetrators, by a huge percentage, have been policemen.
Yep.
Or women. Police. So now you have to ask yourself the question. People are turning up in a body of water. People in the village are the ones who are finding them and bringing them to the mortuary. Somebody has been able to identify that on these bodies, which we know very well that investigative mandate then rests on police. Somebody has been able to identify that in a lot of these cases, parts of their bodies have been done away with, so that you can preclude things like identification. Why would you do something like that if this was a natural death? Why would you do something like that if there was nothing wrong here that happened? Unless this person was beaten and gotten rid of because whatever reason. Why would you want to hide it? And then why would you want to be so finicky about the reasons as to why you're calling people and they don't come? We were involved, we are not involved. We know, we don't know. Bangy. Doesn't make sense.
Complete. You know, we have had in this country the fortune of having some good and forward-thinking and committed leaders. Unfortunately, some, like the late Ken Okoh, are taken away by the Lord when they are right there when they are serving. Ken Okoh sponsored a bill through Parliament. It passed. It was called the National Corona Service Act. It establishes the Office of the National Corona Service and the National Corona General. And it gives them the mandate. Any unexplained death can be investigated by this particular office. And it says that this is the person who will investigate this particular death. Let me just read the sections of this act so you get to understand what I'm talking about. It says that, where is it now? It has disappeared. What's wrong with this?
Give it time.
It will reappear.
There, see?
Yeah, it has reappeared. You're right. A person who has obligations to report reportable deaths and investigations of reportable deaths. A person who has reasons to believe that a deceased person died as a result of violence, misadventure, negligence, misconduct or malpractice by unfair means or during pregnancy or following pregnancy in circumstances that might reasonably lead to sudden and unexpected death from disease or sickness from any other cause other than disease shall immediately notify a coroner or a police officer of the facts and circumstances. Where the police is notified, the officer shall immediately notify the coroner of such facts and circumstances. Where the death occurs in police custody, the Coroner General shall take up this matter. Then the Coroner General is the one who shall investigate this. The service shall have jurisdiction to investigate the causes of death where the deceased person is reported to have died of a violent or an unnatural death. The deceased person is reported to have died of a sudden death of which the cause is unknown. The deceased person is reported to have died in police custody or military custody, or death occurs during or following an assault within 24 hours, all these things. So such cases then of bodies being discovered, and you can say appears to have been mutilated, appear to have been strangled, appears to have been attacked and hacked on the head. There's violence involved here.
Yes.
The National Coroner General
under his or her mandate
would have taken up this matter. This law has been assented to by the President in 2017. This law has not been operationalized. Oh, now who shall form this coroner? Now who shall appoint the coroner general? Now, up to date.
So essentially, you're seeing a reluctance.
Yes.
I'm seeing a cover-up. I'm just going to go ahead and call it.
You know, it was going to investigate some sort of independence. It was going to investigate deaths in police custody.
Yes. Do you think they want to open it up to that? Do you think about it?
It's establishing a parallel investigative agency on matters of crime and death as a result of suspected crime.
Specifically, people who have been known to have been in police custody.
Yes. Those people who are in police custody and then somehow are able to access a bottle of acid and drink it. Those ones.
And then they turn up from there, arrested in Yala.
Or left in a cell and somehow they hung themselves.
They hung themselves.
With a shoestring.
Yes. Those are the ones we're talking about. Or they turn up in a water body somewhere in Yala.
The Coroner General would have been investigating such cases.
So
now,
do you see? Now
it's not.
Has not been operationalized. Do you not see that the reluctance would
Who would be
play here?
mandated to operationalize such a thing?
The minister who is responsible for matters of justice. Now, here's the quagmire. Someone sometime went to court and said, the Attorney General is acting as if he's a minister for justice. And he's not. And the court agreed and said the Attorney General is not a cabinet minister.
He's an advisor.
So, Attorney General can therefore not
touch it.
Appoint the Coroner General. But there has been no designation of matters of justice to any minister.
And did the AG's office challenge that in an appellant court?
They have been trying to challenge it. It was, look.
But still, even if they're challenging it, it's still exactly where it was.
Yes.
Yeah, do you see that there would be some people who would benefit from this non-movement? Things are not really happening. Even we talked about adjournment here, you're not really interested in this thing gathering any kind of steam. Because what it does, that if you touch that thing, even with a 10-foot pole, the fumes will come out and they will point back to you. So here, you don't want anything that would be established, then would point in your direction or people under you or over you or whatever. So of course, you had a huge advantage if these things are not operationalized. Huge. Somebody will start investigating. Somebody then will start piling up these bodies, literally, and start finding out the cause of death and who was in their presence in the last minutes before death. Really? Don't you think that somebody is at an advantage because these things then have not been put in motion? Because, like you said, a crime been committed on these bodies that you have seen. These are the ones that we have heard about. The state then would have to get involved to find out the cause of death. This is not a murder where somebody said they saw X person walk in and then therefore this happened, or they presented themselves with bloodied hands at a police station. No. You've seen evidence of criminal activity on a body that nobody has claimed, and you, bearing the mandate, has actually come and lifted said body and taken to a mortuary. You've been involved in investigative process. Now, to take it unto its conclusion, you don't want. Don't you think it's fishy?
Imagine. So let's take a break at 28 to 10, and we want you to join the conversation, 0719-012-600. Who should provide answers? Who should provide answers to all these bodies that are turning up in River Yala and those that have turned up in other rivers across the country? Or in the Savo, some mutilated body found in the Savo. Someone disappeared, a body is found in the Savo. A beheaded body is found somewhere in Muranga. Who should provide answers? That's the question we're asking. Join the conversation, 0719-012-600. Let's take this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Owning a home is a dream for most Kenyans. In partnership with Mabati Rolling Mills, this Saturday, I, Olivia Otieno, host experts that will get you that much closer to realizing your dream of owning a home. Join me on Double O Direct from 10 a.m. on 94.4 Spice FM. Live stream standardmedia.co.ke.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? his party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Silvanus Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Silvanus Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Chilled Spice.
Okay, cloudy conditions in some parts, but mostly in Nairobi, the sun is shining. Highs of 25 and lows of 15 today. Sunny at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 14. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 17 in Nyeri. It'll go to highs of 26. 23 will be the high in a cloudy Eldoret this morning. At 17, we'll see lows of 12. In Mombasa, cloudy conditions going to highs of 32 today. And 31 will be the high in a sunny Malindi. Mostly sunny conditions in Kisumu at 24. We'll see highs of 27. While in Kakamega, it's partly sunny at 25. It'll go to highs of 28 today and lows of 14. It's sunny in Kampala at 22. Highs of 28 and lows of 17. While in Dar es Salaam, mostly cloudy conditions at 26. It'll go to highs of 32. Continues to be a foggy morning in Lagos, highs of 33 and lows of 22 today. While it's partly cloudy at 18 in Johannesburg, we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 13. It's now raining in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Looking out into Beijing into early evening Thursday, it's -3 and cloudy. We'll see highs of -1 and lows of -7. It's cloudy in Paris at 2, highs of 6 and lows of 0. While in London, cloudy conditions back in the morning at 3, highs of 7. And rounding things out in the Big Apple, New York, snow, 7 degrees. Highs of just 7 and lows of -10.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
We'll be out of traffic hour soon, but still some parts of the city that is clogged up. We're looking at Thika Superhighway just around the Pangani underpass. And then, wow, Mombasa Road is not letting up today at all. Imara Daima, and we're looking at all the way from just past Cabanas and then going out inbound. There's quite some traffic this morning. Doesn't look too pretty. North Airport Road still continues. Quite a lot of traffic there. Embakasi out then towards Outer Ring. That is still messy. The Southern Bypass not looking too bad. Use that as an option. Going into the city, of course, is still going to remain clogged for some time. Out of traffic hour, however, let us know what you see, folks. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
0719-012-600. We need answers. We need answers. We need to know, how can more than 20 bodies be found within 3 months coming from River Yala? They appear to have been dumped there. They are piling up in a local mortuary, and there are no answers to this. Others who have turned up dead in various parts of the country. We have seen reports. People disappear in Mombasa. Charred remains are found where? In the Savo. Somebody disappears in Nairobi. Vehicle found somewhere charred remains and actually decapitated body found somewhere. Others are found in the rivers, in Tana River, in rivers in Muranga. What is happening? We need answers. So the question is, who should provide these answers? Andrew Franklin is saying, where was Chris Msando initially dumped, and to which mortuary was it delivered? Wasn't even delivered to a mortuary.
Was it really?
How many unidentified bodies, cause of death, murder, are literally piling up at City Mortuary?
If this is the kind of thing that doesn't shake a people to its core, then you get to the place where very little much else will. That if people, right, are disappearing, and it's not that they're holed up somewhere being fed and waiting for somebody to pay a ransom. They are dying. They are being killed. If it doesn't do something in terms of mental psyche, national psyche, and say that this cannot continue in this fashion, then there's something really, really wrong. Who should give the answers? Those who are duty bound. They should give the answers. I don't think that there are no answers, Eric. I think there are answers. I think that there is a reluctance to give those answers because essentially what you're doing is that you're shedding the light on what you've done. For whatever reason. Maybe, and this is the cry that we hear from initiatives such as Haki, who say, you know what, guys? If these people have done something wrong, charge them.
Yep.
If they've done something wrong, arrest them and bring them before court. Even if we know that they are behind bars somewhere, at least we know where they are and that they are still breathing.
Yeah.
But their lives have been, if something has happened, and maybe you as the custodians of security police have no idea, it is okay. But you have a mandate to do an investigation and tell people what is happening. So you had nothing to do with it, we understand. But the investigative mandate then rests on your shoulders to come and say, okay, we've seen 1, 2, 3. We've done our investigation. This is what we have found out.
Yep.
But if you don't do that, do you see how the shadow of doubt then is cast on you?
Constantly.
Always.
Constantly.
Because everybody's going to point at you and say you had something to do with this. It was one of your officers who did something untoward, so we're just going to blame all of you together.
You know, there have been cases that we've heard that we know of where those kidnappings take place. Okay? Somebody has disappeared. A kidnapping takes place somewhere. You report to the police. The police actually designate those special crimes officers. Those guys work throughout. I know of a case where something like that happened, and the police officers who were assigned to that case were working throughout. They were calling the family of the missing person, even in the middle of the night. We think this and the other. Tomorrow, very early in the morning, come so that we can discuss this a bit further.
Right.
They are working throughout, they're traveling around the country. They find the person. When they want to find the person, when they are intent on finding the person, they find the person. Remember the girl who was kidnapped in Kayole? The lady who was kidnapped, the business lady who was kidnapped in Kayole.
Yeah.
And the people who had kidnapped her were found. She was found in a drum somewhere in Kayole. The people who had kidnapped her, a man and a woman, were found somewhere in Nyandarua.
Yes.
Where they had gone, they had bought a bar business. They were
already setting up business. They were going.
They were arrested.
Yeah.
Special crimes people, those officers, they do their job.
Exactly. So now doesn't it seem...
So when somebody goes missing...
Yeah.
And then they turn up alive in Kitui County. When somebody goes missing, they turn up in Juja naked. When somebody goes missing, they turn up dead. And then it goes cold. You ask yourself, it's not for lack of competence in the police service.
Can you reconcile the two?
It's
Can you
not.
reconcile the two?
No.
These ones who are able to trail and find somebody across the country in a matter of hours. The same ones who are putting out a statement. And today, I'm going to give a friend at the NPS a call and ask him, what does that mean exactly when you say we are waiting for people to come and tell us if this is their body? That's the answer that you give. The same people who can find somebody across country in hours are telling you, yeah, well, until they come and identify, we then are not able to really tell you what's going on. Bollocks! What are we doing? Oh no.
You can't explain some of these things.
What I find particularly chilling is the increasing number of people who supposedly go missing and continue going missing, increasing.
Yes.
And then there's a correlating number of people whose dead bodies are found in very bizarre and unusual circumstances. River Yala just happens to be one spot where many bodies have been found. But it points to this same thing, a culture of bodies being dumped after the individuals have been killed. Not they have died, they have been killed. Now, that upward trajectory is what I find extremely disturbing. Because by the time it gets to the point where the newspapers are reporting it this frequently, what it tells you is that in certain circles it's become normal.
Yep.
Yes, it is reported that someone has disappeared. But then at the same time, we are now reporting that bodies are being found. Now, surely, even if I didn't want to connect the two, I really do not have much choice. Even if I didn't want to think in a certain direction, I do not have
The
much choice.
highest likelihood is that of the 20 bodies that have been recovered somewhere, there has been a complaint, at
Yes.
least for one.
Yes. Worst case scenario, yes.
At least for one, there's a complaint on record somewhere in a police station.
Yes.
And police across the country are able to communicate with one another.
Yes, they are.
From time immemorial. Kebo.
Even before the advent of the cell phone.
Yes.
Over.
Kebo. Kebo imetumwa kutoka Nairobi. How do they know they've been transferred?
You know, this discussion has opened up to very many possibilities. Let's take the one possibility that presents itself easiest to the mind. There are criminal elements who seem to have found the job, because it's a job. People don't just get killed because people get killed. People get killed because some people wanted them dead. So there are people who presented themselves as being equal to this particular task, and this is something that they do well.
Yes.
Now, the moment that becomes a point of discussion, then the question is, how is it that these very capable, very able, very well trained in this particular field police officers have not been able to pin them down and say, it is this group of people, or in this area, it is this sort of person?
Yes.
Why? Even if they're elusive, why?
We want to hear from you this morning, 0719-012-600. Calls coming in. We'll pick them up shortly. Matt Timothy Kinyoda says extrajudicial killings and the Rivayala deaths will only be solved through the operationalization of the National Coroner's Act. Yes.
That's it.
At least we'll make a step. We may not be able to solve, but at least
Even if you put it in the light. You put it in the light. You put it in the light, then you're able to see you would at least see the shadows, right? That's what you try to do. That something can be done. And you know what, even Eric, as you talk about this act, how many other acts, how many other things that essentially are the key, right?
Yep.
To a lot of these solutions that we are looking for. Those are the key, but they are not operationalized. So we're just hanging about in a clouded fashion.
Yeah.
Because, the law doesn't say anything about it and nobody's been mandated to do it. So we're just going to go ahead like that.
Others, it just gather dust.
Yeah.
All right. So a report is produced, a report goes somewhere, a report is accepted, but it gathers dust.
No, somebody died in a mine the other day because, it's not been operationalized, so we can't really do anything about it. People are dying on a daily basis, being dumped in water because there's no National Coroner's Act. Okay. This other one, the law is needed. Somebody needs to be... Omo Ichoko. I don't know. I can't.
There are very many things, like I was saying earlier, there are very many well-meaning officers in government. People who sit and they look at a problem and they go back and they do research, they look at experience, they look at best practice globally, they put together and say, this could be a solution. They present it to their bosses at the ministries, and the bosses are like, brilliant, this could be a solution. We need actually to go and get cabinet approval. Come and present it to cabinet. They present it to cabinet. Cabinet says, brilliant, let's. And that's it. It ends there.
It ends there.
It takes forever for that to become reality. And those people will then sit back and wonder, okay, so I came up with a solution and we are still having the same problems. I came up with a thought on how we can address food shortage. We are not. I came up with an idea. We came up with, as a team, with an idea of what we can do with water harvesting, with reducing water shortage in the country. Not implemented. We thought of how we can get better access to justice. Not implemented. So you ask yourself, what devil has invaded the system? What devil is this that has invaded the system? And what is happening?
You know, we often talk about the cumulative effects of certain ideas, certain notions, certain processes.
Yeah.
And when we discuss impunity, it is virtually impossible to discuss it in totality and to look at the diversity of consequences that impunity brings.
Can you hold that thought?
I can.
Okay, let's hear from John Odhiambo, who's in Kitengela. Good morning. We just lost John. He'll call back.
Yes. Now, why I say it is difficult is because when you have a situation where there is impunity at one level. Remember earlier on when I was talking about something is happening in the Middle East and it's beginning to affect us here. And we're not next to the Middle East. Some quarrel that has nothing to do with us whatsoever.
Yes.
Okay? But it is now it's at our doorstep. And it's going to affect fuel prices at some point or the other. Now, in the same way, this discussion that we keep having about the security officers, the police officers, and how some of them, and I dare say the vast majority, do what they're supposed to do. But the elements that are rogue, we keep talking about mental health. We keep talking about resources. All these discussions are good. But behind all this, there's the element of impunity, which is like the engine and the fuel. So long as you understand that there is a high possibility of getting away with anything that you do, you will not have limits.
Yeah.
No.
You'll never stop. John is back on the line. John.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. I'm calling from Kitengela.
Yes.
Yes, I was saying, why have these guys used to have, their other river, Yala used to be Oldonyo Sabuk. Yes, and that is where they used to dump bodies. And what happened to Oldonyo Sabuk, where they used not to dump bodies? Two solutions we want in River Yala. So that these guys, you can give them a hard time. Because they are hitmen, we know, they are being hired. They are being hired to execute such criminal activities.
John, what did they do with Oldonyo Sabuk?
Oldonyo Sabuk, that is where, that was their dumping site from since time immemorial. And I think there are some security installations around that place that has made it difficult for them.
Okay.
Yes. Now, because they have turned their attention to River Yala, and this is one thing that we are not going to stop anytime soon. The government also has an explanation to this, and especially the police. Because the police, there are very many cases which are being reported to the police, and the police seem not to take seriously matters which are being reported to the police station. And we have looked at the way police are also in some cases have been accused of colluding with these hitmen. And that because the reason why, if you look at the way Chris Mutando's body was handled, they made sure that the clothes that he wore, which bore fingerprints, they had to be removed. and the disappeared youth, and the critical areas where we can get the identification documents are being removed, including the fingerprints. Some of them are being removed, the earballs are being removed. So they are not people, they are hitmen, they are not village hitmen. These are people who know very well the criminal justice system, they understand. Yes. So I think the people who give information are the police. I'm done. I'm an electrician by profession. How would I know if I kill somebody, there are areas I'm supposed to be interfering with so that investigation are not done properly? So the police have this information, and especially the police who are tasked with the responsibility of investigating. Those forensic investigators.
They know.
They know. These criminals out to handle the body.
They do. Thank you very much, John. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Asante. Says police are very well informed. And if you are to start looking at then who would be the perpetrator of this, you'd start with somebody who has some very good knowledge of what to do, the lie of the land. And then they also know how they can evade justice. If you disappear in this one part and I go and your body is discovered, is recovered in some other part, it's going to take a while before the two are connected.
Put the pieces together. I even as we say these things, I think the chill factor rises up just a little bit more because then people are getting bolder and bolder because they realize what you've just said, that to be able to put the pieces together is going to take time. And by the time they actually do it, that to get it back, anything pointing your direction will be a lifetime. That coupled with the fact that there really is no interest in getting these things done. But I'm thinking, as we always must, about those who are losing their family members, about those who are losing their family members without applied justice. And then those who are asking questions and are receiving no answers. And then even more about a justice or a legal system that is broken. That is broken. That those who have the duty of care, unfortunately, allegedly otherwise, are involved in the perpetrating.
Don't you see here how an absence or a lack of adequate resources now comes into play?
Clear. And and like we said, it's not the majority of these folks are not involved in this. No. These are people we are together here. Right? So can we see? Yes. And I think in very many cases goes back to that. The people who have this huge burden of responsibility to ensure security, how well are they being taken care of?
What is it that leads someone to decide that instead of going through, say, for instance, let's take the view that hypothetically this is a security officer.
Yeah.
They know very well what ought to be done.
Yes.
The process ought to be followed, that justice. So what is it that makes them decide or determine that, no, forget this justice system.
I'm not going to go this way.
No. This is the path that we are going to follow in getting this thing done. What gets them to that point?
Frustration with the system?
Yes. An acknowledgement that even if we go through this process,
we will not get there.
We're not going to get there. And we know who these people are, what they do. And there are cases where families have no clue what these family members actually do.
Yep.
They have no clue. What they say they do and what they actually do, two different things.
But is that not what we were fed with the story that came out of Kitengela? Is that the brothers of each of the four gentlemen, brothers, mother, father, told a different story. My son has never been what totally different. They don't know.
Do you think, for instance, if I were a criminal, that I would tell everybody that I am a criminal?
Today, actually, what we are going to do is this is the operation that we have.
Yes, that today I'm not going to be home today
We have
because I have 3 people I need to rob.
Yeah. I need to relieve somebody of their head tomorrow. So
yes. Am I going? And when I'm having a drink with my friends and we're chit-chatting, I'm
hit someone.
Yeah. This one is difficult. This guy didn't die easily. Now, is that a conversation I'm going to be having with my buddies when we're having a drink?
We demand justice, and I mean the families of people who are missing they deserve to know what's
They do.
happened to their king.
They do. They do.
Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's conclude with the day's proverb. City.
Jicho la hasidi huenda kila pembe. Now, huenda kila pembe for this very reason. The reason why it goes back and forth and here and there and hither and thither is for the simple reason that it's looking for content. In the absence of content, the expression of that envy, which often arises in rumor mongering and in slandering, it's not productive and it's not useful. But content makes it viable and makes it potent.
Yeah.
That's why the eyes traverse this and that and this terrain and the other, looking for fodder.
You know, I hear even the wife has left.
You
know.
And you know, it's not even the first wife.
Yeah.
And where did the other one go to? Hey, you don't know.
Even those 3 kids. None.
Do they even look alike?
Thank you for tuning in to the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning. So tomorrow we have some interesting conversations. Today we had a military officer who's serving in a senior position in government, and she's the head of the Asset Recovery Agency. We have Lieutenant Colonel Badi. We have other military officers. So tomorrow we're asking all these military officers, what gives? Join us tomorrow from 7 a.m. Have a lovely day. It's 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by InDriver. Choose your preferred driver.